Everybody, welcome to the latest episode of Tom's Chatroom. On this episode today, I am joined by James Buchanan. James is a very interesting bloke, and he's the president of a network, but we talk more about that in the main show. The reason I'm coming to you guys prior to the show like this is James and I talk for approximately 4 hours, but I'm putting 3 hours of the content in here. But the show, I'm editing the show slightly differently this time, and that's why you guys need to be aware of. The way I'm going to do this show is this is going to be my little intro kind of bit, and then I'm going to have a musical interlude, which I'll talk about in a moment. The the episode starts with me and James having a pre-show conversation about technology and other stuff, which I'm going to put in as it went. And then we sort of talk about how we're going to go into the intro, and then we do go into the intro for the main show. But because we spoke for about 40 minutes pre-show, I figured that stuff was good. It was too good content to just cut out and let lie in my recycle bin until my next emptying cycle. So that content is coming into you. I've cut off a bit at the end of the episode when we talked shop about the end of the show and stuff. But yeah, you're gonna get this as it happened when I recorded it live, talking to James. So I hope you guys can live with that. The musical interlude song will be "Merry Go," provided by Kevin MacLeod of incomputech.com. The music is used under Creative Commons license.
But see, the problem is, and I've gotten used to this,
Yeah.
new versions of Skype, really quite bad on the first couple of the days.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Oh, well, hopefully this one decides that today is not its day to fuck with us.
Yeah, all you got to do is, what was it? You just got to pray to the gods of Microsoft.
Yep. No, is that this recording current? I'm not sure. Usually I get a little pop-up in the corner that says, you are recording, call recording, but I didn't get that this time, and I'm a bit worried.
Go to your call recorder, and it probably isn't recording. You might have to do it manually.
How do I open it up? Because I've got it in my top Windows bar, but I haven't got like a open thing button. If I right-click it, it says recording is on, turn recording off, exit. Click it on my desktop.
You're on
Windows
you're using
7, I believe.
7. Yeah. You're using the MP3 Skype recorder, aren't you?
Yep. All right, here. Yep. Recording file size 1. Fuck me. That's over a megabyte. We've only been going a minute. That's going to be one chunk of file. I usually record at 32 stereo. I've switched to what you suggest because
mono 128 is the better one.
Yeah.
Mono's the best one to do because stereo only comes through your right or left earphone.
All right, okay. I switched to what you suggested because every podcast you do is fucking smooth as shit. So I am going to stick with what you say. You're the pro here, you know.
Yeah, mono 128 is what I generally try and do is I go mono 128, and then when I'm editing it through Audacity, depending on the file size, if I'm using it for my own network, I'll put the file size up as high as possible because I have to use TalkShoe for the gamer scene, and they limit to 100 megabytes. I have to go down to, I think, is it 112, I think.
Well, all I'll do is I've got a hooky version of Adobe Audition 3.0. I'll do an audio edit in that, then I'll lob it into VideoPad video editor, stick a picture that I've already made for the like a backgroundy kind of thumbnail kind of thing.
Yeah.
In fact, I can throw that in Skype in a second. That I've made that I'll use for like the background on YouTube as the video content per se, and as the thumbnail. Hope this one you're cool with this one. I've had this one made for ages since we talked about doing this.
hey, I'm pretty much cool with anything. Nothing really. I don't really care. I mean, I don't really. I'm
I
not really
I
one of
could have.
those people.
I didn't do I didn't nick the people power logo though. I nicked the. When you put up on Twitter, I better start using my face as my avatar again. Or something like that.
Yeah, I think I remember that. Yeah.
In which case, it looks a bit like that.
Yeah, I literally have no. I mean, I've said on Twitter loads of time. And I've said on podcasts, I live my life vicariously through the internet.
Yeah.
So I've got nothing to hide. I pretty much, if I fuck up, everyone knows about it. So
That's the same kind of system I do. My YouTube channel is actually branded under my own name. My artwork is all my name because a lot of people have got like these sort of brand names and stuff. I've had this YouTube account since YouTube wasn't about business, since YouTube was about dudes throwing stuff at each other and laughing, recorded in grainy video on their Nokia 36 8s or something.
you
I've had this YouTube account since like the middle of 2006.
back when YouTube back when everybody thought that 360p was the most amazing thing in the
Yeah,
world.
I mean,
It's like,
I said to somebody recently because I was interviewed for a documentary that somebody's making at a local university because we're old friends and stuff, and she said,
yeah.
I want to interview you about the stuff you do on YouTube, and I legitimately was talking to her about how I've been on YouTube since before YouTube was cool. Because YouTube now is a different being. YouTube's been a different being since Google put its hand into its very large wallet, pulled out
Mm.
a note that nobody can read the number of zeros on, and handed it to YouTube and said, "Come be my bitch."
The way I look at it though is without YouTube and the fact that Google have bought it, Tumblr wouldn't have been bought so highly.
Mhm.
Flickr wouldn't have been bought so highly. Instagram definitely would have never have been bought for the $1 billion or so that Facebook had. And then you had the one. What was it? It wasn't Reddit. What was it? It was Oh, what was it?
Is
There
that
was
a good
one.
thing though?
Yeah, I think it is because Instagram. Granted, it hasn't since Instagram got bought by Facebook, and obviously they've become chums of Facebook and Twitter's basically said, "Pff, okay, we're going to go to Vine and I think it's Flickr now."
Mm.
I think Instagram going to Facebook is a clever thing because then Facebook have their own photo service. Twitter's got their own video service in Vine, which I think Vine is quite possibly the best short form video service ever. Because
A lot of people were talking about Vine when it first came out, and I mean, we'll sort of re-go over this when I've done the intro for the episode. But just sort of a lot of people said Vine, oh, this is the first time we've ever seen anything like this, and the whole time I was thinking, does nobody remember what WWE tried to do with Tout?
yeah, I mean
Tout is slightly better than Vine because it's longer.
yeah, but see the thing, what I prefer to Vine than I do to Tout is just people asking questions and then going, "Hi, well, let's just take the WWE example. Hi, I'm a fan of The Rock, and I prefer Vine because Vine is 6 seconds and you can choose what you want to record. And I know I'm going to sound very fucking uh, sort of all posh and smart arsery, but I think it looks more artistic because a lot of the stuff I've seen. I mean, I follow people like Scott Johnson, and I think that all the stuff he does on Vine is hysterical. But I think it's more just a case of who you follow and you sort
Mm.
of what you do. Because obviously, now that I think what's it called? I lost all the companies now. My head's just gone because what's the one after iOS? What's the one that's going up against iOS? Fuck.
Android.
Yeah, that's it. Android have just got Vine in the past month, I think it is.
Oh, have they? Because I'm on Droid and I haven't found Vine yet. But
Yeah,
because obviously I'm not wealthy enough to be one of the people who can buy the new iPhone and stuff like that. I've got my Samsung Galaxy S2 that I've got on a contract for 2.5 years. And I'm fine with that. For the
yeah.
time being.
Android Vine came out for Android June 3rd, so
Yeah.
as long as you've got Android version 4.0 or higher, you'll be fine.
I don't know what that. I don't know. Is that Jelly Bean? I don't know. I've got Jelly Bean.
I think it probably.
No,
I
sorry, I haven't got Jelly Bean. I've got Ice Cream Sandwich.
I think ice cream sandwich is okay because I think that was the one from last
Because
year.
I did install Tout when WWE was doing it. I've uninstalled it now. And I'm totally looking around at different options for Twitter apps because I really need something that will let me post my tweets automatically on both Facebook and my Facebook group for my YouTube channel. Because I literally just look.
Hootsuite.
I did have Hootsuite for a while. I was using it for about a week, but I was noticing that after a certain period of time, it stopped posting to Facebook and started saying, "Oh, failed to post to Facebook." I tweeted the Hootsuite guys, and they said, "We think it's because Facebook sets an arbitrary limit on how many statuses you can post every day." And
That's not technically true. It's not how many statuses you put a day. It's how many statuses you put in a certain amount of time. It's like what they do on Twitter. If you post too many tweets, it locks you out of Twitter for about 10 or 15 minutes.
It was kind of weird though because Facebook was always going, no, no more. You can't post anymore. But Twitter was like, yeah, go ahead, post as much as you want. So my assumption is that Twitter has a slightly higher limit than Facebook because I could get away with live tweeting during an episode of something like Waterloo Road every minute or so. You know, just sort of, oh, I agree with this, I disagree with that. He's a dick, she's a dick, you know, and stuff like that. And then Facebook was like, no more, no more, stop now. You can stop now, you know. And I'm like, I don't want to. I don't want to. Whereas if I link up my Twitter account with my Facebook account, it automatically every tweet goes out onto Facebook as a post. So I'm going to stick with that for the time being until I work something out. But I did just post on the Facebook group. Seriously, guys, my honest advice for you: this Facebook page is only a testing thing. Seriously, follow me on Twitter. It's easier.
Yeah. I mean, I very rarely. I mean, Brian Brushwood, who I've followed, I wouldn't say known. I've someone I've followed since 2009. The best thing he said, and I completely agree with this, is I use Facebook as an extended Twitter.
Yep.
Oh, by the way, the other company I was saying earlier that got sold, Dig.
Oh yeah.
Dig is the biggest example of Google doing the right fucking thing.
The only thing that I question about that, I mean, like I said, we will go over a lot of this when we're in the main show kind of element. Is I don't know whether it's a good thing that Google is setting this kind of this precedent that as soon as a company gets all a company's got to do is get relatively over. And then Google will buy them for ridiculous pound sign, or you know.
Yeah, but the thing is also look at Microsoft with Skype. Microsoft actually only bought Skype at the back end of 2011, start of 2012 for like 700% of what it's actually worth, and they've done nothing with it.
Yeah.
They were supposed to bring it to the Xbox 360 last year in November for the big patch. That didn't happen. That actually got quietly, because I noticed this. That quietly got dropped from what they were going to put into the new Xbox 360, and obviously that's come up with the Xbox One. And I mean, what have they done with it? I mean, they bought Skype for something ridiculous, like, what was it, like 800 million or something ridiculous? And what have they done with it so far? They've shut down Windows Live Messenger and put everybody onto Skype.
Well,
that's the only thing they've done.
I just let my Windows Live Messenger account die because my Windows Live Messenger was linked to my Hotmail email account. Sorry, not Hotmail. I've got to be correct with technical terms. My Outlook account. And I just sort of left that because I've got.
Sorry, 8.5 billion. I do apologise.
Shit.
Yeah.
Because I've already got a Skype account. Because I set this Skype account up because it matches all of my other branding. My Twitter branding and stuff like that. You know, my name, and if I can't get my name, the prefix 1990 is where I exist pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, most of my stuff is always either Dead Man Inc. or Dead Man Incorporated in some format or the other. So.
Because I mean, my YouTube account officially is Axel Steel 21, which I set up in 2006. So that's why I linked my account with my Google Plus.
Yeah, I thought that was a clever idea by Google. I thought that was a clever idea that you could actually link it, so you could actually have your real name on your YouTube account.
Yeah, and that's what I've done, and now my YouTube account and my branding is my name. Even though to get to my account, you've got to go to YouTube/users/AxelSteel21. I'm okay with that, you know, because I think we've all had a ridiculous username in our time.
Yep. Yeah.
We've all had a ludicrous username. I look back at my old Bebo username, and I'm not even going to mention it. I'm not proud of it at all. I was a
Bebo.
I was a John Cena fan way back then.
I never used Bebo. Never. I've never.
It was the first social media I went on.
I was MySpace. MySpace was the first one. Jumped onto Facebook early. I mean, I jumped onto Facebook super early, 2006. Used it
How
for
did
6 months.
how did you access it in 2006? Wasn't it all universities back then?
Nope, 2004. Facebook started out 2004 as a university and thingy and a university and American school thing. Then I believe in 2006, well, around about 2006 time, it slowly started going out to the public. So I just got on there just as just as it started. Was on there for about 6 months and went, well, this is a bit of shit. Went back to MySpace. Um, then I started on Twitter in 20. No, I had a first Twitter account. Completely forgot all the details for it. Then got another one in 2010, which is the one I'm using currently.
Same Twitter account all the way through. I've just had 3 or 4 different names.
Yeah, and then my friends kept badgering me. They're like, "Why don't you use Facebook? Why don't you use Facebook?" I went, "Because it's shit."
It
So I
really
had to,
is.
so I caved in just to shut them the fuck up. Used it for about a month and a half, like not constantly, but used it for a month and a half. And then I'm like, "Fuck it, I'm going back."
Well,
Like,
Facebook.
I post stuff on Facebook. I mean, like I do sort of I joke around and do shit on Facebook. But if you compare the amount of tweets to the amount of Facebook posts I do, Twitter, I mean, like Twitter in like September, I've done like over 2,000 posts. So
Well, Facebook for me, it's linked to my Twitter account, so all of my tweets get posted as like those little posts.
oh
Like
fucking hell.
I've literally that's all I've done because I can't be asked to. I can't be bothered with going onto Facebook and going, writing a status, then going over to Twitter, shrinking it down, putting it 140 characters. That's the one thing about Twitter that I would honestly change. I'd increase that limit a little bit because if you like to use proper words, you have a problem sometimes.
Mm.
I was trying to have a conversation with a well, I was having a conversation with a company that I know locally to me, and I was unable to use the word spectacular in my tweet because it's too long. And I like to use sort of what's the word metrosexual terms sometimes. Spectacular, darling.
Yeah.
I do go off like that sometimes.
Yeah, I'm one of those people that I can't stand. See, I can't stand tweets that are like, you know, stuff like bye bye is BBY and then eight
Hmm.
and then like and eight and we're best mates MA. I can't stand that kind of crap. See,
I use n sometimes instead of and. So sort of like for example, if I was promoting this chat room, I'd do something like, "Oh, today I'm interviewing. I'll be talking to James Buchanan for Tom's chat room, and then then I'll be recording some of my Pokemon Let's Play or whatever,
yeah,
um, because because it's easier that it's less letters than A and D. I might use is it ampersand? Is that the word?
ampersand, yeah.
I might use that. I might use that from time to time, but a capital N is just as easy.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I love Twitter so much is because I think Facebook. I know this is like the stupidest thing to say, but with Facebook, you can put anything you want in there. With Twitter, I find it kind of a game, like to see like how can I make a properly like I'm not it's not grammatically correct. Everything, well, most of my tweets are grammatically horrible, but it's like how can I make a tweet that uses all the words I want to use without having to use any shortened down text versions. I don't
Yeah.
know why, but I love Twitter because it's just like for me, it's just a giant game.
Mm. Or if you absolutely have to, end the tweet with 1 of 2. And then post the second
Yeah.
tweet, 2 of 2. And then realise most of the way through number 2, shit, there's going to be a third here. 2 of 3. 3 of 3.
My favorite one is because obviously I use TweetDeck on PC because on PC TweetDeck I think is the best Twitter app there is. It's just got updated yesterday actually. It looks so much better. It looks so much better streamlined, and they used to have a deal with Twitlonger, I want to say it was, that got shut down when Twitter bought TweetDeck in. I think it was last year they bought them.
Hootsuite have got that thing now, haven't they? Twitlonger, is it Hootsuite or?
It's Twitlonger or Bitly because I know like fucking what was it? TweetDeck was huge when it came to Bitly, and now Bitly looks just to be a standard shortener. But
I use the Google shortener, so it's goo.gl/numbers, and that's your link.
I mean, the annoying thing with TweetDeck, what it used to be, is you used to have to put in your website separately, like, hey, go check this video, and then you'd actually have to like click, press, add URL, and then it would take you to Bitly, then you'd have to do that. Now it does it for you. You just put the
That's awesome.
link in it. Yeah, you just put the link in whilst you're doing your tweet, and it just says, hey, by the way, I know it takes up like the 30 characters or whatever it is for the link, and it says, oh, by the way, the link will be shortened in the tweet. Yeah.
Anyway,
awesome.
I think what's best, because of the way the conversation is just flowing, we'd better sort of pause, do the intro, and then just pick back up. Pick back up and go back over this stuff again.
If you heard some of the pre-shows I've done for some of the podcasts I've done in the history, I think the longest one I did, I think it was with Martin and Ed when I was doing the Walking Dead one. We done a pre-show when it was just us three talking for about 2 hours. And then we're like, oh, it's nearly 10 o'clock at night. Fuck, we need to do the show, don't we? and the actual show was another 2 hours itself.
I don't want to waste all of the good chat. I want to actually put it to use, and none of this I can actually use because it hasn't got the intro, and I'm not exactly the world's greatest audio editor, so I can just sort of snip it in and slip it into the main show.
Yeah.
All I could probably do is sort of like, oh, we had a chat pre-show. I'll put it at the end of the thing or something like that. Apart from that, I don't really know how I could use it.
The best of I'd say what you can do is just before, when you open up the show, just do something where you just go like, hey, hey, it's Tom here. On this episode of Tom's Chat Room, like prior to recording this episode, myself and my guest at this time spoke. We spoke for about 25 minutes, and I think this is a great addition to the show, but we're going to stick this as the start of the show.
Yeah.
Play that, and then after that, play a little musical interlude, which could only be, but it doesn't have to be long, about 30 seconds to a minute.
Yeah, that's the only thing I'm not sure about in terms of musical interludes, because I'm putting these up on YouTube, and I'm bound by copyright because I monetize all my shows.
Just use royalty-free music. They can't take you down if you use royalty-free music.
I'll grab something off Kevin MacLeod's site, because that's where I get all my stuff from.
Yeah, as long as it's royalty-free, they can't take you down.
I'll because I was looking at stuff like, what legally, how much of a song can you get away with without actually contravening copyright? What's fair use when it comes to music?
As long as it's royalty-free, you can use it for however long you want.
I honestly, whenever I've had wrestling fans on, I've wanted to use wrestling theme songs, but I thought I just can't unless I can get away with something like if it's less than 29 seconds, I'm cool or something like that,
I believe the law, and I mean, I'm not super adversed on podcasting law at the moment, so I'm a bit behind on my podcasting law as most people are, but I think it says in the law, especially for stuff like YouTube, you can upload something in the event of, I think of a parody, review, or something else, I think it is. So it's like, but the line between parody and review is obviously a thin line, which is why so many videos get taken down, because people are like, well, is it parody or is it whatever? So yeah, it's a tough pill to swallow.
I mean, one thing I am thinking about in terms of parody is doing a parody of the 1980s Bill theme, right? And literally just getting a load of my friends to just like throw people around on grass or something. Because in that thing, it's a lot of loads of like people with 80s hair arresting people on gravel. You know, it's a lot of that, and people talking in a like an interview room kind of thing, wearing like the most 80s headset known to man.
Did you do it? Maybe.
Well, because if you watch the intro theme, right, it starts with the car coming towards them with the round siren light on top of the car. You know. There's a bus in the background, and sort of like it drives towards the screen. It squeaks and the door opens, and it's one of my favorite themes, and I've actually got like a 3.5 minute version of it on my phone, just because I love that theme. I'm a proper 1980s Bill nerd, because it's so much better then than it was until they closed it recently. Because obviously back in the 80s, that legitimately, right, there was a storyline about, oh my God, the Knicks just got a black policeman. Looking back at that in the modern day, it was sort of like, what's this? A
The
black man?
equivalent, the,
You
the
know,
equivalent, the equivalent would be, oh my God, the police have got a gay person.
honestly, yeah, it legitimately, right? There was a whole episode about that just sort of had him walking around doing his stuff and people looking around corners. What's this? A black man? And it's,
And
it's
then like the latest series of the Bill or something, you've got like a black superintendent. Half the
yeah,
characters are black.
yeah, half the characters black. In fact, in 2006, they had a gay black man,
Yeah.
which is like, if you put gay black man in the 1980s, gay black man would last 5 minutes, And it's sort of like, and legitimately, right, his nickname around the Nick was Snowball.
Okay, that's a kind of a bit racist.
Completely racist. And I mean, it just goes to show you exactly what they could get away with in the 1980s. Nobody gave a shit. Only Mary
Oh,
Whitehouse.
yeah, and everybody knows that Black Gay Man was my Right Said Fred cover band.
But that sort of stuff was going on in that show. Because I've got like the first 3 seasons box set, and I watched for. I mean, there was one episode where somebody got shot with a revolver. You know, I mean, legitimately, right, they had to call for armed support. And instead of it being like, if you watch the bill in this recent season before they closed it, right, blokes in body armor, the long costumes, the helmets and stuff, and the machine guns. No, legitimately, it was legitimately was the sergeant wearing a pair of, the sort of elbow pads you used to get when you went skateboarding when you were a kid.
Yeah.
Wearing a pair of those elbow pads, holding the rustiest looking revolver I've ever seen. It was the same. It was Bob Cryer, if you know any of the characters, and he was like this sort of old doddery sergeant, and he had this revolver, and it's sort of like everyone's behind him walking with this revolver, and legitimately you're thinking, I don't think I trust him as armed support. I don't think I trust him as armed support. As much as I love him, his entire body is pretty much open to these bullets because they're wearing the old style sort of button-up police jacket and the tall police helmet, And I imagine crouching down at the knees and going, "Hello, hello, what's going on here?" It is that kind. It is that kind of cheese. That's where all that sort of cheesy idea of "Hello, hello, hello, what's going on here?" I believe somebody did say that line in one of the episodes. That's where it came
Yeah,
from.
I mean that's kind of always stuff, isn't it? As long as it's like that's the kind of thing that everybody wants. Everybody just wants a show like that. When it gets so popular, it's just like we want to have that one line that everybody remembers.
I honestly have said, why can't the BBC buy that program? Because the bloody set's still there. They do tours around it at the moment, right? BBC should buy that program and literally, rather than giving it its own show, just sort of cross it over every time the police are called in casualty. Use one of the characters every time. Every time Phil Mitchell gets nicked for selling dodgy cars or whatever, right? Have him nicked by one of the bill coppers and stuff like that, and just cross things over. Occasionally in custody, you walk past Phil. They walk past Phil Mitchell, stuff like that, and just sort of tie everything together.
Do you know why though? Do you know why they won't do it? Because there's another TV show on the BBC called Points of View, and that would just be covered with people going, "Oh my God, I just saw this person who used to be on the bill, and he's now playing on EastEnders or something. Are you bringing the bill back?" And then they just get millions of emails going, "Are you gonna bring the bill back?"
They did that. So that if you look at stuff like the bill, everybody who ended up in the bill was in EastEnders in the past, or
that's the old joke,
one of the
isn't it?
big things the bill used to do, which I loved, right, which you don't realize, which I love laughing at now, is everybody who ever played a copper in the bill appeared as a criminal at some point in the past.
Huh.
Sort of like not as like a big sort of major several episode storyline. No, like as like a teenage shoplifter, or somebody who bought a dodgy car off someone or something like that, right? And they all appeared, and it was sort of like, and you look at it and you think, okay, so that's where they met this bloke, who's now the superintendent, and that's where they met this girl who's now a DC or whatever, and that's sort of one of the funny things that they used to do,
Mm.
You're not a famous actor unless you've appeared in the bill in one of their lineups. Paul McCartney appeared as a woman. Not Paul McCartney. Paul O'Grady. Sorry.
Paul McCartney is a bit of a woman, to be
How
honest.
did I mix? How did I mix those two up?
Boom!
How did I just mix Paul McCartney and Paul O'Grady up? The hell?
It could be worse. You could have said you could have said Lily Savage and
Robbie
someone
Savage.
else that name's Lily.
Lily Savage and Robbie Savage.
Yeah. No, now that would be harder to define each one because they've both got kind of similarities to each other.
Yeah.
Both are kind of a bit fruity.
Yeah. But I mean, anyway, but I just love looking back at stuff like that. Legitimately, this morning, I'm going to bring this up during the show as well. I've spent the morning watching Captain Planet.
Oh, classic.
I found somebody who's uploaded all 5 seasons on YouTube. I'm very pleased. Because I started watching it because I was watching somebody's video who had put up something about Power Rangers Ninja Storm, where they've all got these elements, right? And I watched the morphing sequence, right? And there's a power of air, a power of water, and a power of earth. And I said, all they're missing is fucking heart and fire. And you've got the all they're missing is heart and fire, and Captain Planet will appear.
Captain Planet was it was so bad, but it was just so enjoyable to watch. It
was so bad, but I mean, it's such a good sort of, I mean, a good moral, really. It's a cartoon about environmental safety.
Mm.
We could do with something like that now. If you think, everyone's talking. David Cameron, everyone is always talking about our massive sort of carbon footprint and stuff like that. Why couldn't they bring Captain Planet back? Bring back the cartoon Captain Planet to teach kids good habits in environmental safety and stuff like that. Because there were a load of people commenting on the video I was watching saying, used to love Captain Planet. I'm a marine biologist now. And it's sort of like, that's kind of cool, really, that you're Captain Planet and now you're doing
the only thing, though, is they keep saying, like, oh, I'm one of these. The only people that think is, it's like, I really don't trust YouTube comments.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that, I mean,
you're a marine biologist sitting on YouTube watching Captain Planet. Fuck you, no, you're not.
I was kind of hoping somebody would have posted. I used to love Captain Planet, when I'm a kid. I own an oil company now. I just wanted somebody to post that.
Or do the old Skyrim joke. I used to love Captain Planet, and then I took an arrow to the knee.
Oh, that's great. But it's such a good program to look back. I was watching the Magic School Bus the other week as well.
I remember that. Yeah.
I had all the PC games.
Yeah, the one. I mean, my childhood mainly consisted of stuff like Dexter's Lab, obviously original Pokemon, but my favourite was Wallace and Gromit. I love the Wallace and Gromit franchise.
I hate the fact that a lot of Wallace and Gromit can't be done anymore because his factory burnt down.
And I know they said that obviously there's plans of making a second film, but I think they wanted to do something else, didn't they? Because obviously they were going. I think they said it was going to be about 5 or 10 years between the next Wallace and Gromit film.
That's legitimately how long it takes to do claymation. Though.
Yeah, because they can only do like 5 seconds a day because they have to move everything like millimeters per second. So fuck.
So, when I was at college, there was a girl who was doing not a claymation but a paper-based animation with like these little origami figures, right? And she had the camera on like a, I suppose if you imagine a Bunsen burner stand, right? Big metal stand that sort of came arched out like a pier and came down, had the camera held in it in place, right? And she sort of she sort of had her finger on the record button and went, literally sort of press, right? That's 2 seconds of my animation, right? And then she'd sort of like, and then she'd stop, she'd have the camera in place and she'd go down and she'd like, move the right leg forward 0.5 centimetre, move the left leg forward 0.5 centimetre, right arm up, left arm up. And she was doing that all afternoon, and I spoke to her on my way out because I was leaving shortly after, and I said, "So how much have you got done today?" "Oh, about a minute," she said. I said, "Christ, I made a 30-minute live action thing this afternoon,
Mm.
I made a 30-minute live action scene of people running around, and she'd done like about 2.5 minutes of her piece in a day.
But it's like the great thing is you hear about that, and then all of a sudden it's like you actually watch it, and you're like, okay, fair enough, take all the time you want.
Yeah, and and I was sort of thinking, I think I prefer live action, I think I prefer live action.
Oh, I'm a sucker for stuff like claymation and
I mean, I love. Do you watch Knox's Corner?
haven't in an ages, no.
I haven't watched it for ages, but I mean, I like his stuff, But his stuff is supposed to be cheesily bad, His stuff isn't supposed to be smooth, I mean, literally, you see hands come in and rip the things apart and stuff like that,
Yeah.
That I kind of like that because it's sort of like taking claymation, kind of taking.
Oh wait, is that? I didn't realise that was Robert. Is that? That's
Robert Benford, yeah.
Dude, yeah. I mean, I've followed him for ages since he done fish stick sandwich burrito.
That's Robert Benford, yeah.
Yeah, I know. I didn't realise he done claymation as well. Because I mean, I've known him since he did fish stick sandwich burrito, which I still think is quite possibly one of the best videos on YouTube.
He is Knox. That's Knox.
Oh yeah.
Knox is Robert Benford.
Oh, that's cool.
That's
the more you know.
And I mean, I love one thing. One thing he was doing recently was selling claymen.
Yeah.
Hard clay. These sort of essentially these little like clayman statue kind of things. And I was like, I really want one. Should I get one? No, I'm not going to do it, But I was, for ages, I was thinking, I'm going to get one. Get a green clayman, And I was thinking, well, I haven't really got a shelf to put it on, so I'm not going to bother. I've got next to me, on the desk next to me, a Rey Mysterio figure that humorously is injured.
Is it the knee?
No, its foot snapped off, so it can't stand up.
Oh, it's close.
But I mean, it can't stand up, which is hilarious. Have you seen the pictures going around online? One of the UK based radio shows posted it. Of the Rey Mysterio and Sin Cara wrestling figure dual pack that comes with a sling on Sin Cara.
That's cool.
It comes with an arm sling on Sin Cara, and everyone's like, "Oh my god!" Even WWE's taking a piss out of him being injured, And I posted, "Yes, but of course it should have had a knee brace on Rey." Aha! And
what Ray's had what like
Ray's had about four or five knee surgeries, yeah.
Surgery like the last 2 years. It's like, dude, just fucking retire, man.
I don't know why he doesn't.
It's like, dude, your knee's fucked. Just get over it.
The only thing that I think goes behind with him not retiring is I really do think that would be kind of cool if WWE did that record attempt.
Yeah, they've been trying to do that for what, 2 years now? Oh, we're going to do it at WrestleMania 27. Fuck, Mysterio's injured. We're going to do it at WrestleMania 28. Fuck, Mysterio's injured. Let's do it 29. Fuck, Mysterio's injured.
They should do Mysterio versus Cara versus Kane. Technically, it's a mask.
If I was WWE, I'd completely piss everybody off by doing that, and then at the end of the match, Kane would just take his mask off for no reason, just going, "What? Fuck you." Like, yeah, now what you gonna do?
I like Kane in his current form, but I do still hark back to Royal Rumble 2001, Kane in a full face mask with the vest top.
I still think, and I know this is me, I still think the greatest Kane entrance I've ever seen has to have been WrestleMania 21. I love that entrance so much.
Is that the one with the building's on fire behind him?
That's the one when they were doing Money in the Bank, and he comes out and all the ladders on fire, and you just see they've got the perfect orangey kind of red light, and you just see him laughing, and I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah, I did like that Kane, but I mean, I don't know, I just think Kane suits a mask. I didn't like bald Kane.
Yeah, it's like the thing with me, and Martin said this, I completely agree with this, and I've said this for years, is everyone that keeps going like, oh, Kane should be taken seriously. It's like, guys, they've just done like stuff like Katie Vick with him. They are never taking Kane seriously again. And to be honest, Kane as a goofy character works because put it this way, like if you put Undertaker and Daniel Bryan together and they were supposed to be doing this hugging, cuddling kind of, oh no, it's not your fault, we've got anger management, it wouldn't work. The reason it works is because Kane is just He's one of those people that can be put on anything and it just works. Like, Kane and Fake Kane is a retardedly dumb angle.
That was
but
hilarious,
it
though.
works.
That was hilarious, though.
It
You know,
worked because
I
it's him
wish
going.
I wish they hadn't dropped it the way they did, though.
Because it was just him going around talking about May 19th and that he
Yeah.
saw Fake Kane in his head. It's dumb, but it works.
I mean, I wish they hadn't. I wish they hadn't dropped it the way they did, though, with Fake with him literally just pulling the mask off Fake Kane, throwing him through the fire exit, and we never saw him again.
Well, we saw him technically 6 months later as Drew Hankins. Or sorry, as
Yeah,
Festus.
but I mean, what I mean is, I wish they'd
Yeah.
I wish they'd gone all out. Had the Fake Kane come out, even have a fake bearer, because you could stick anybody in a fat suit.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to pull that one now.
They couldn't pull that one. They couldn't pull that one now. But I mean, Paul Bearer has died in storyline several times. Why couldn't they reincarnate him, so to speak? It wouldn't be taking the piss out of the original Paul Bearer, because it would be like, it would be sort of, well, Undertaker's always been linked to Bearer, I mean, when they put him into the Hall of Fame, Bearer, are they going to put him in as Paul Bearer, or are they going to put him in as Bill Moody?
Paul Bearer.
Because
everybody knows him as Paul Bearer.
Yeah, but I mean, you put the bloke in, don't you? You don't put the character in, do you?
Well, they put in Mr. Fuji, and they've put him in as the character of Mr. Fuji.
Ah, good point. Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. It's been a week since my last chat room. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Tom's Chat Room. I am ripping off the church because that's what they do. Anyway, guys, on this episode of the Chat Room, I am joined by, well, I'm looking at the People Power logo. If that gives you guys any clues. No, I do not. I do not have John Laurinaitis on the show. I wouldn't have him on the show if I could. But joining me on the show at the moment is James Buchanan.
For the great record of People Power. I won't keep doing that. It's going to hurt my neck. But hey, everybody. Yeah.
So let's talk. We've been going. We'll be honest with you guys. I'm putting all of what we've recorded in, most of it anyway. But we've been talking for about 40 minutes anyway. So let's talk a little bit about some of the stuff that you do on a daily basis, James.
Where do you want to start?
Well, you're obviously well known for your podcasting goodness.
Well, I'm not. I wouldn't say well known, but I hope to be well known one day.
And so, sort of, how did your podcasting goodness start per se? How did you go from being, James Buchanan, a bloke in Chelmsford, to James Buchanan, podcaster? How did that come about?
Well, the voices in my head told me to. No. No. What? No. Basically, what happened was I got my first iPod in 2006, 2007. And the reason I say it like this is because, I mean, podcasting really has only been around since 2004, 5?
Since iTunes, really.
Yeah. But I mean, like the actual sort of the idea of like how about rather than just being a talk radio where you can only listen to it on a digital radio or actually have some kind of service that can pick up FM radio, how about you actually do a internet-based talk radio in which you upload an audio file and everybody around the world can listen to it for free? It's a crazy idea, but I got my first iPod around about the end of 2006. I mean, and I started listening to certain podcasts. I mean, when you first start listening to the podcast, you do all the big ones, don't you? You start listening to stuff like Radio 1, all the really well-known ones at the time, like Radio 1, some comedy podcasts like Ricky Gervais, a couple of wrestling ones I had in there. Can't remember what they were off the top of my head now, but it wasn't until really the first major podcast that I really got into, and I'm generally being honest about this, was Dropkick Radio.
Well, we will talk a bit more about Dropkick Radio later, because obviously that comes into your timeline a bit further down the line. But in terms of, the first time I personally heard you was as part of Cypher Podcasts. So can you tell us a bit about how that came about and, I suppose, get into your unceremonious exit?
Yeah. Well, basically, what happened was, like I said, I kept listening to Dropkick Radio, and then I came across a podcast network called Cypher Podcast, which were doing a weekly wrestling show, kind of Dropkick Radio esque, but not as in depth and as good in my opinion. But they were doing a show, and it was basically being hosted by the Phenom Forever website, which is the longest running Undertaker website, or fan website, I should say, of all time. And the more I listened to this, the more I was just like, hey, I like talking about wrestling with my friends, and I thought, well, how about, this podcast thing? I'd like to sort of jump into that. So I sent an email to Carl saying like, hey, I haven't got a microphone at the moment, but I'm going to get one soon, and, I'll do some emails or something. I'll send you some emails and you can read my thoughts, kind of like the fan feedback thing. And in the start of January 2009, I actually officially started doing the audio stuff for them, actually being on the show live with them. And yeah, I mean, I stayed with Cypher Podcast up until May of last year, May of 2012.
Yeah.
And I mean, during that time, we've done the Beyond the Match shows. They've done like the fancy thing, like the fancy draft and the fancy area things they used to do. And then around about 2011, I started trying to branch out into different kind of stuff. Like I wanted to do like a morning show or specific kind of like independent wrestling shows, or kind of rather than it, because I thought like, hey, it's great doing a one-hit show with just wrestling and stuff like that, but I thought, well, you're only going to be reaching a certain demographic. For me as a podcaster, I want to be a successful podcaster. I think that I should try and hit to a wider demographic, not try and hit everything because I don't know everything, but I'd like to hit a more wider demographic. So I thought, well, how about we do a morning show where, hey, we can talk about wrestling, but then there's all the other things we could do, and that was the plan. That was at least the plan, because I was like, well, let's try and make this a big thing. And then, basically, the way I left Cypher Podcast was under my own merit. I didn't get fired. I didn't, you get sacked or anything happened. It was under my own merit. I chose to left. So I chose to left. Great use of grammar there. I actually chose to leave, and I put up a big post. Like almost like a letter kind of resignation on the main website, and basically my reasons for leaving were they were doing the fantasy draft,
Right.
and their lead show to begin with was what they called the Beyond the Mat wrestling show. That was their lead show, and in my eyes, their fantasy draft was overtaking everything. All of the ideas, all of the shows, everything they were doing was being overtaken by the fantasy draft. And I said to Cole, and I said to him multiple times, I said, it's great, the fantasy draft thing is great. It's great that you're spending hours and hours and hours upon this. But if you want to make this show work, the Beyond the Match show, a really good show, you've got to focus on that first before you do your fantasy draft, because your fantasy draft is only going to appeal to people who take wrestling not at face value, but people who want to book wrestling.
I only listen to their fantasy stuff now. I listen to their fantasy stuff, and that's all I listen to from them. Because it's something that nobody else is doing.
Yeah, I mean,
their own little universe.
It's different. It's great, and I love the idea that they were doing pay-per-views that were essentially the same time, roughly, as an actual pay-per-view would happen in real life. But I mean, like. I mean, obviously, I'm not exactly saying Dropkick Radio. They were doing 3-hour-long shows, but obviously they were covering, WWE, TNA, Ring of Honor, independent promotions in the UK, independent promotions in America. Talked about Japan, had fans on their interviews. I mean, they had enough time to fill up those, 3 hours per week. But I was saying to Cole, like, his idea was, I mean, I'm not a big fan of TNA. And we joked on there, and we laughed, and we joked about TNA and, how crap it was. But I said to Carl, if you want to maintain as a wrestling show, you've got to still keep doing TNA, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, okay, don't watch. But I'm pretty sure there was 5 of us here. I don't like watching TNA, but I still watched it because I was like, hey, I'm doing a wrestling show which is covering all wrestling. If I don't like it, I've still got to watch it.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think it's something you want to give to your fans. And then they just completely dropped the TNA wrestling stuff. They kind of started, I want to say, sort of bashing on me a little bit, to which I wasn't a big fan of. And then when I decided to do this morning show, this is basically one of the things that really went, okay, sod this, I'll do my own stuff. I was doing this idea of a morning show, which was basically, the idea was, we talk a couple of stories, maybe have a little talking point, and that was it. It wasn't going to be anything too long. I was expecting about half an hour to an hour most. And I gave the idea to Carl. I said, how about we do it on the main feed so everybody can see it? He said, yeah, no problem. And I started to come up with the idea. I said, well, how about we do it as a two-man show? Because I think as a one-man show, you can only go so far. And he went, hey, I'll do it. And I said, okay, well, here's the time, here's the date. Every single day during that week, he completely no-showed, didn't email me as to why he didn't turn up, and then he appeared on the Saturday night for Beyond the Match show going, oh, let's do the Beyond the Match show. And I said, well, are you going to address why you haven't been here all week? And he just completely ignored me and just carried on. I was just like, right, if you're going to be like that, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
So he suggested, I suggested it, he was cool with it, he wanted to be on the morning show, he was like, it's a great idea, I'll come on, it's something I can do. Then he just completely no-showed it. I was like, well, fuck you then.
Yeah. I mean, you were running the website at the time, weren't you?
I was the main administrator. I used to run the website, the forums, and basically the day-to-day running. Carl would edit the shows mainly, but most of the shows that were being done, besides the fantasy and the actual Beyond the Match show, most of the actual shows that were being done, I was editing myself.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like the fantasy was their own stuff. Like I think I was like Ring of Honor, so I did my own stuff.
Yeah, you were Ring of Honor. Yeah.
DM did. It was NWA, so his stuff was his own thing that he edited. Carl done his own editing thing, but everything other but the draft and the Beyond the Match show was all my editing.
I mean, I don't think I wasn't a big fan of the way they handled it when you went, because it was sort of like, didn't they say something along the lines of, Ring of Honor because it's been abandoned is vacant now, and then I know somebody else is running their Ring of Honor now.
Yeah, JJ.
I'm not knocking them or anything, but I mean, I don't think they handled your exit that well.
I remember because I put on Twitter. Because I'm one of those people. I'm very vocal about stuff. I mean,
so you should be.
I'm one of those people. I'm like you can look at my Twitter back in about April of 2012, and I was very vocal by saying I don't think these Beyond the Match shows are good because I stopped really doing Beyond the Match shows at the end of 2011. I appeared on a couple of episodes, but I mean, like since pretty much the end of 2011, I pretty much wasn't on a Beyond the Match show because I just didn't like it anymore. But I was vocal by saying I didn't like the direction they were going in the show. I thought the shows were very lacking. They were shorter than they should be. They didn't cover everything. They were only covering what they liked. They used to have a go at me that I was negative on everything. And I think if you look back at those months leading into WrestleMania, they were super negative on everything.
Oh yeah.
They hated everything, and I was just like they were talking about like Randy Orton and Kane. They were like, oh, Randy Orton and Kane's a shit feud and it's going to suck at WrestleMania. I went, yeah, it might not be a great match at WrestleMania, but the build-up's not that bad. I mean, yeah, okay, it's kind of a bit like it was a bit of a dodgy build-up in the case of like Kane. The whole point of the storyline was it like Kane remembered shaking Randy Orton's hand like 8 months prior. Yeah, that's a bit of a cack way to make a storyline, but hey, it worked.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, and it's like they complain, oh, I want continuality in my wrestling. Yeah, that's not the best example of continuality, but you got continuality, and yet you still moan about it.
I just sort of get the impression with some of the stuff that they said at the time and stuff that they say now that they're the kind of people who, sort of, if they don't get what they want, they'll complain and complain and complain about it.
If it's not exactly
how they would do it, then it's wrong. So
yeah,
Whereas I look at it as well, I wrote this long and complex sort of calling of the rest of the Undertaker's career, which we'll get into at some point, and I know that WWE ain't going to do that. Because it involves them changing a lot of stuff that WWE know and trust, so WWE are not going to book it the way I am, but I'm still going to watch whatever they put out, and however the Undertaker finally retires, I'll be cool with that, but I'll still be thinking, well, it would have been probably better if they'd done it my way, but money calls it,
The best example of what I could bring up as the reasoning as why I left Scythe Podcast, one of the best reasons is, hey, we're all big Undertaker fans, which is why it was put on feedonforever.com. That's great, fine. I'm a big Undertaker fan. And I remember, and Cole used to say this numerous times on the show, which basically was the line of, if Undertaker's not on SmackDown, I'm not watching it.
Wow.
Like, that is my biggest problem. Because it's like, yeah, okay, I understand you're a big fan of Undertaker, but I mean, like most of the people that have come out from SmackDown that have gone to Raw, like Alberto Del Rio, that's basically saying like, oh, he wouldn't have watched Alberto Del Rio, he wouldn't have watched CM Punk. I mean, I know CM Punk went from Raw to SmackDown, but let's take bygones be bygones. CM Punk was on SmackDown for what, a year and a half, 2 years nearly, and then you had what, you know, Edge went to SmackDown, Triple H went to SmackDown, Batista went to SmackDown.
You would have missed the return of Cody Rhodes when you know, because I long look back and remember that return of Cody Rhodes when shortly after, you know, Legacy imploded and stuff, and when they brought him back as dashing Cody Rhodes, that was so funny.
Yeah,
you know, this mirror sort of popped up on the screen. Cody comes out, no knee pads, swaggering like he's Rick Rude, frankly. You know, that was funny. You know, and I miss that character every single day. I miss that. You know.
But sort of moving on towards, I remember what I was to begin with when I was saying like, I pretty much dropped everything. Right, I think I said like I was leaving at the end of May, but I think was it one show at the start of May. I went, okay, that's it. I'm leaving now. Fuck it, I'm done. And I think it was like the middle of May they did a show. The week after I officially went, fuck it, I'm gone. And they did their Beyond the Mat show. And I remember one of the lines of saying, well, nobody cares about Ring of Honor. And this was Ring of Honor, the actual promotion, not this fancy stuff. This was, oh, well, no one cares about Ring of Honor. James was the only one that watched it, so we're not covering it anymore.
Yeah.
I was fine with that. I was like, fine, sure, you know, do whatever you want with that. And then they started sort of berating on me, sort of saying, you know, like, oh, well, he wasn't that good, and you know, like, oh, you know how they do the dirty laundry of, well, his back's turned, so we'll talk shit about him.
Oh yeah.
So I listened to that show the Sunday. I replied the Sunday afternoon, and I replied the Sunday afternoon on his Facebook page, and I went, hey, look, I don't care that I'm leaving, but look, if you've got shit you want to say it to me now.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you're broadcasting it and you're going to send it to the world and everybody's going to listen to it. I don't care what everybody says, but my idea is like, if I didn't like something, like I said, I'm vocal. If I didn't like something, I put it straight onto Twitter so everybody could see. I was not, you know, I didn't. You know, shit behind someone.
You know, shit, mate. If you've got a problem with me, at least give me right of reply.
Yeah.
You know.
But I was just like, right, that's it, fuck it. And because obviously the website was in my own name, I went, oh, I'm taking the website with me, which he got pissy for. And I went, did you pay for the website? He went, did you pay for the website? And he went, no. I went, well, I paid for every single month. It's my website. Fuck off.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I left, and I'm to be honest, it's since I left in May, it's this last year is the best year I've ever had.
Yeah, well, obviously, I you know, sorry to air dirty laundry and stuff like that, but obviously let's you know, let's talk about more healthy issues.
But like I said at the top of like I said to the top of the show, and you did in the pre-show, I'm not going to hide anything. If something goes wrong, I'm going to say it. I'm not going to hide the fact that I didn't like Scythe Podcast, which is why I left. It's the best thing to do, because if I do ever get famous, and I'm not trying to be one of those like, oh, I want to be Sienna Miller kind of things, but if I do ever get famous and someone digs up on something going like, hey, you did a wrestling podcast when you were 19 or something, I'm going to be like, yeah, so what?
So let's talk about, you know, after the whole thing happened with Scythe Podcasts, you popped back up as the, what do you call yourself? The president of...
I used to joke around to begin with. If you ever listen to Spill.com, they obviously, with Corey Coleman, I used to joke around saying I was the Corey Coleman of podcasting, because I used to just do all the podcasts for Monster Madness Radio. And then I said, well, how about I just call myself the president just to be a dick?
Yeah. So, you know, you started up the Monster Madness Radio Network. So, you know, obviously you started up your own stuff. So talk about some of the early days of starting up that network.
The early days, it was kind of all the shows that I was doing with Scythe Podcast. Like I wanted to do my own wrestling show, a morning show. I was doing at the time I was on Side's podcast, I was doing a music kind of show where I was just talking about bands we liked. And I was like, well, why don't I bring that back? Obviously, like a video game show I'd like to do, some commentaries. There was, and some sort of, there was these shows I was doing. I was like, well, these are my intellectual rights. I like to do them on my own network. So the first thing I did was, prior to the new website I've got now, I transferred all the data, changed the website from Site Podcast to Monster Madness Radio, changed it all around. I had met a couple of people from my time at Site Podcast Network called Kieran and Ed, and I said to them, I went, hey guys, I'm creating my own network. I'd love you two to join me. And they went, sure, no problem. And, they've been on the network since day one. I had Candice on there as well, who does the Kane's Inferno website.
Yeah.
Jason Simmons on there, who used to be an old Site Podcast listener who's come onto the website as well. And I've had some people in and out. And I mean, I did an interview with Justin Robert Young. That was the big thing for me. Is I was just like, how can I get this network to start off with a bang? And I mean, I've done like a couple of morning shows and a couple of wrestling shows, I think it was as well. And I was just like, well, I spoke to Justin back in March because I had him on during, that I think was my last. I think that could have been my last Site Podcast episode, my Beyond the Map episode, which is when I actually had Justin Robert Young on the show when we were talking about WrestleMania. And I've known Justin. Well, I haven't physically met him, but I've known him on Twitter and all that, and I've spoken to him many, many times. And he's a wrestling fan, and I said to Justin, I went, I'd love to do a kind of a proper interview, kind of like what we're doing here now. I said, I'd love to do an interview with you where I sort of talk about it. He went, yeah, no problem. And that was basically, I think, the beginning of the Monster Madness Radio Network for me. The fact that I was able to land an interview with Justin so early into like 2 or 3 weeks into the actual network, because I mean, the network only started July 1st last year. Yeah. And the fact that I was able to, instantly talk to him for an hour, I was just like, I was happy with that. And yeah, I mean, it's kind of gone a bit wary because of my shift work that I do. And Kieran, myself, and Ed, and everybody, it's hard to get everybody in the same room at the same time. But I think the shows we are producing are maybe not. I admit they're not the best shows in the world because I'm still getting my feet wet doing this stuff on my own. But I think that where we are now compared to where I was a year ago, I'm in such a better place. I'm so happy now.
It's
sorry for taking up so much time and just completely rambling.
You can go as long as you want, mate.
I'm like the Jim. Do you remember, was it the Dropkick Radio interview of Jim Cornette, whatever it is, where you just have a question and like he talked about the same question for like 25 minutes?
I believe a better example linking to Dropkick Radio, which we'll talk about now anyway.
Alex Shane.
the 3 episodes of Alex Shane, the 5-hour podcast. Yeah. And I mean, I will talk about that if at some point I get Jeremy and/or Martin on the show.
Oh, that was.
They are definitely on my list. I've just got to talk to them about it.
I'll definitely say this right now. Being a part of the Dropkick Radio Live community, I think we called ourselves like the Fantastic Six, or whatever it is. Like there were 6 of us that would maybe not appear every week in the chat room, but there were 6 of us who were constantly like the DKR hardcore fan base. And some of the times during the shows are probably some of the funniest times I've ever had. Yeah. Chat room, just absolutely amazing times.
The way that whatever they're talking about, the chat room will go in its own direction.
Yeah, I think like they were talking about Raw or something, and I think we ended up talking about like. No, it was what was it? I can't remember what it was. I think Martin was talking about something on Raw, and we were all talking about like what characters from TV shows should appear on Raw. So like at the time, like Phil Mitchell on EastEnders was like a crackhead. So we're like, well, why don't we have Phil Mitchell as a crackhead on Raw or something?
Yeah.
Like, and then we could get like what was it? It was Derek from Criminal Minds or something to shoot him in the face.
Mm-hmm. But obviously, for the YouTube viewers, a lot of whom might not have heard of DKR, we'll go into a bit of detail. DKR was, because it's gone now, and we'll talk about that as well. Was a podcast originally hosted by was it Jeremy on his own or?
It was Jeremy. I believe it was Jeremy, Martin, Nick, and
Ray was on there,
Ray.
Yeah. But it was a podcast that eventually down the line, Jeremy, for his own reasons, had to leave. We can't go into that really because we don't. He's not here, and he'd tell the story better than we would. But Jeremy had to leave for his own reasons, leaving Martin on his own, and Martin brought in a very well versed co-host who I'm now talking to.
Woo! Yeah.
So, sort of, how did that one come about? How did you and Martin get into conversations about you coming on? Because I remember you coming on as a guest at one point. You just called in on one of the shows when Martin was on his own.
Yeah, the way it worked.
And you never left.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't I never left. It was about to leave, and then he just said, "Well, you can do all the LSDKLs with me." I went, "Okay." Yeah. The way it worked was I started listening to Dropkick Radio in the summer of 2008. So I'm one of the hardcore original fans of Dropkick Radio. I mean, I've listened to it pretty much since day one. SummerSlam 2008 podcast was the first podcast from Dropkick Radio I listened to, and I never emailed into them. But when they started going live, I mean, I was there on the first live show. I was in the chat room, and then I called in. I think it was 2010 was the first call-in show I did with them when I called in and spoke to them. And, I just I was always there in the chat room. I was just just having a laugh, having a joke, having some fun. And as the time went on, I said to Jeremy, because I think there was some point where the chat room was being hacked, or there was people doing some stuff to the chat room. And I said to Jeremy, well, obviously you're busy doing the show with Martin. And so I don't mind taking control of the chat room for you if you want, be a moderator or something. And if anything does happen, I can take care of it for you, which is, that's basically how I sort of became. I mean, it was only a small thing in terms of everything, but basically I was helping them with Dropkick Radio. And it's like the smallest thing in the world, moderating the chat room, but it was something. And I've always sort of talked with Martin or Jeremy on Facebook or something. And then, when Jeremy used to do his shows on his own, I sometimes would call in just to, talk with Jeremy about WrestleMania or I think it was the Power 5 one week or something or other. And then, Martin was doing the shows on his own. And, I'd done the show with him that one. I think it was the day before my birthday. I did that show with him, which was I stayed on until the end. And when I spoke to Martin following the show while he was uploading it, then I think I sent a message to Martin saying hey, if you ever need somebody to come in and do some co-hosting stuff for you, or be a wingman or something, I've got no problem with that. Just give us a shout, tell me what you want to do, and I'll do it. And pretty much from the start of November, I basically became the new co-host.
So obviously, you and Martin sort of co-hosted DKR for.
I burned Dropkick Radio into the ground.
You said it, not me. You said it, not me.
Yeah.
I mean, I do miss listening to the show, but I mean, after the after sort of when it was starting to wind down, and you as a listener, I could tell it was starting to wind down a little bit.
Yeah.
You guys were starting to struggle. As good as you guys were, I could tell you guys were starting to struggle with it a little.
Yeah, I mean, for me, obviously, I was only on the show for 6 months, but Martin, I could tell. I mean, I was trying to help Martin as much as possible, but I could tell he was visually he was gone. I don't know if it is where he just had enough of wrestling, whether he just had enough talking about it, but to me, I just thought Martin. I thought, I was like, the guy needs a break, because to sort of open up the little thing, Martin was doing. I sort of tried to help him, but Martin was the one that was editing the shows and uploading it, and to anybody that doesn't do uploading that, it might sound
takes a long time.
Yeah, it might just sound all you've got to do is just click here and upload it. No, you've got to edit the show, then you've got to listen to the show, make sure there's no problems. If there's any music or anything you need to add into the show, you've got to do that. If there's a problem with the editing software or something, you got that. Then obviously you got the other stuff as well, Tom said at the start of the show, he's going to put his thing, we talked for 40 minutes prior to the show, you got to put that in there, and then sometimes you might have to put a little audio bit at the start of the show to say, hey, if there's a problem, or, it's a very long process, and then you've obviously got to upload it. So I think Martin was just beat. And I think, when he came to me and he said, do you know what, I think we should end Dropkick Radio. And I said, if that's what you want to do, because when it's your show, I don't want to pressure anything into it, but I went, if anything you want to do, I'm going to be right behind you. I'm going to be with you all the way. And he suggested we close it out. And I went, if that's what you want to do, man, I'm all for it. I went,
Mm.
it's your idea. So
You know, whilst it's sad, it was sad to see a long-lasting podcast, a podcast that actually has more history in it than any of the other UK-based shows that are proclaiming to be the best at the moment. You
yeah,
know, I mean that they all do it, so they're all as guilty. They're all as guilty as sin as doing it. Saying we're the best on the internet, the best in the UK, the podcast with the biggest penis. They all do it. So I'm not centering anybody out with this. But I mean, I've had other guys on the show, and they all do it in their own way, and that's just how it is. We all want to talk about how we're the Big Lebowski or whatever.
yeah.
But
Hulk Hogan and his 24-inch pythons, or his 2012 film, if you really want to see it.
yeah, but as DKR lasted longer than any of them.
It
I
was a
mean,
little over 5 years, wasn't it?
a little over 5 years in various different forms with various different hosts. But it is sad to see it go. But obviously, if health reasons, and I hope, and I haven't, apart from listening to your new podcast, something else we're going to be talking about a bit later.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
you know, I haven't heard Martin's voice in such a long time, and he sounds so much better now. And I
Yeah, I
don't, I
mean,
don't, I don't think, I mean, I don't really talk to him anymore, but I mean, I was his friend a long time. He was my friend a while back, and I don't like to see people struggling, even though, selfishly, me want me podcast, but
yeah.
if it's not good for your health, for God's sake, take a break, and I'm completely with you on that.
Yeah, because Jeremy made it a point. I think, yeah, they had like a summer break where they weren't doing a live show, but I don't think there really was a week without a Dropkick Radio. Like they were one of the only podcasts that, like, during Christmas week, they released two or three
hmm
podcasts during Christmas time. Like they were one of the few podcasts that never really took a. I don't think they ever took a week off.
In
And like,
fact, they released episodes on Christmas Day.
yeah, I mean, obviously, like there's some services which you can use, which you can actually store up a podcast, and then when it comes to like 11, like 12:01 Christmas Day, it instantly,
Oh yeah.
like posts it. But the fact of the matter is, like, I don't think there ever was a week where there wasn't, or at least there wasn't a time, like a good chunk of time where there wasn't a Dropkick Radio show.
Mm.
Like even when they had like, well, like when like Jeremy had his, I think it was Jeremy had his kidney stone,
Oh
and
yeah.
um yeah, I think it was Jeremy had his kidney stone. And I think Martin couldn't do the show. I think, or if he did do a show, I can't remember. But I seem to remember they did actually end up doing a show midweek. Like they
Yep.
still did a show.
Yeah.
Like even if it was only like an hour long, where they just quickly went through Raw, SmackDown, and what they were going to talk about, they still done the show,
hmm
which is just amazing to me. So
Especially when you're looking at a show that they do for no money. They do a show. They don't get paid to do these shows. They
yeah,
do these shows out of the sheer love of doing these shows, out of the sheer love of wrestling and of entertaining their fan base. And that is an idea, a way of thought that can be admired for generations.
I was to really be honest. There are two reasons as to how. Well, there are 2 reasons / two podcasts as to why I wanted to get into podcasting. One was Dropkick Radio, and I'm being this is not me licking arse now. I'm genuinely serious.
Mm-hmm.
Dropkick Radio was one of the main reasons I wanted to start doing podcasting. The other one was listening to Brian Rushford, Justin Robert Young with their BB Live show back in 2009. Like they are the two reasons I actually really wanted to get into podcasting, and like I've been doing podcasting pretty much since January of 2009. So that's what I'm entering my 5th year now, so I'm obviously, it's obviously something I still enjoy. I mean, I do still enjoy it. I mean, hell, I've got my own, freaking network, for Christ's sake. I mean, it's not a monetized network, but I'm obviously enjoying it.
Yeah, definitely. And so sort of where do we go next? I suppose we sort of go from this onto your new podcast, which
Yes.
started a little while ago, the New Gamer Scene. So how did that one come about? Because did that one come about? Did that one sort of overlap DKR a bit, or was that something that came after DKR quietly passed away?
Well, the thing was with with Dropkick Radio, when you're doing a podcast like Tom and me are doing now, like we talk about the pre-show and then sometimes we have an after show where we're just talking, like whilst maybe something is being uploaded or we're getting stuff ready. And Martin and me used to talk a lot about video games prior to the show and after the show, just whilst things were getting done. And I had Martin on one of the MMR shows for The Walking Dead. Because last year Telltale Games released an episodic version of The Walking Dead, which was like the 5 episodes, and Martin and me were heavily invested into that game, and I said, well, hey, why don't I think we're about a week or two away from episode 5. How about we do a podcast where we talk about episode 1 through 4, our thoughts, our opinions on it so far, and then we preview episode 5.
Right.
And we did that, and I was fine with that. It was about an hour and 3/4 long. It was a really good show. We had some laughs, we had some jokes. And I suggested to Martin, I went, how about we start doing video game reviews? Like, obviously not all the video games. I'm like, hey, how about if we do like maybe 1 or 2 a month, how about we start doing them? And we went, fair enough. First one being Far Cry 3. And we done Bioshock Infinite in March or April or whatever it was. And at the time I was doing this, I'm thinking, I kind of like this whole idea of having like an official video game show. I mean, I was doing the Video Game Lounge on Monster Madness Radio, and I still like doing this, but I'm like, I'd like to take it to the next level. I'd like to actually work for a company or a website at least that, could do that. So I started sort of scouring the websites, looking at these, and I mean, I wasn't like going, I want to work at IGN or Edge or GameSpot, because I know obviously I'm one of those people, like, I know you've got to start at the bottom of the ladder. You've got to do the shitty jobs to get the good job.
Yep.
And I mean, I'm not saying, for the record, I am not saying the website I'm on right now is a shitty website, but, you've got to start, I don't want to say it's not a bottom website either, but you've got to start low and then work your way up. So I was looking at all these websites, and I came across the gamer scene, which basically looked like it had all but kind of gone dead. They were still doing posts here and there, but I was like, hey, maybe I'll apply for the gamer scene. They said they want someone to do the podcast, and I'm like, well, hi, I've done 4.5, 5 years of podcasting here. I'll do that easily. So I started doing that, and I said, well, I'll do the video content for your YouTube page as well. And when I started doing the happy hours for their YouTube page, I'm actually looking right now at a video recording that I did last night with Martin with Marvel Heroes, which I've got to upload probably either today or tomorrow morning. And I've got that on there, and then I came up with this idea. I said, well, why don't we do a video game podcast? And they went, sure, yeah, that's fine. So I said, well, the first person I wanted to speak to was Martin.
Yeah.
I said to Martin, I went, how about this idea of, like, we do the video game podcast? I went, it kind of follows like the Joypad thing that Martin and Jeremy used to do, the Joypad gaming podcast. But I went, we do one for the gamer scene. And at the time I joined, I think, gamer scene in March of this year, and I said to Martin, I went, how about you join it? Because I went, obviously you liked, writing about video games, and I went, it'll probably be easy for you in terms of the fact that you're playing those video games, so it's probably easier to just do a quick write-up. And he went, Martin joined us, I think, as a writer in April. Then, obviously, in May, we announced it on the last Dropkick Radio where we were heading off into the future. And then about 2 weeks later, about a couple of days prior to the Xbox announcement, we did our first initial podcast.
Well, I'm halfway through listening to the latest one of those podcasts at the moment, so I'm halfway through your post E3 wrap up kind of thing.
The Sony and Microsoft one.
Yeah,
just anybody
the one with a cracking name, in fact.
Oh, shots through the heart and Xbox. Shots through the heart. Sony's to blame. Xbox One is a bad game console.
Yeah, that is brilliant.
That's always been one of my things with podcasts. I like when they just say, "Hi, this is," for example, like, "Hey, this is Beyond the Mat episode 172," and in the description, like in the information bar, they'll give you like description of what's coming in the show. I've always been that's one of my other major problems with Scythe podcasts. They never put descriptions in the show of like what you can hear coming up on the show. Like, I just went, that's the one thing you need to do, because if somebody's listening to this for the first time, they need to know what they're going to hear. And I mean, that's one of my things. I always like trying to put information in the information bars. And one of the things I always like is, I mean, I'm not trying to be I'm not trying to be like a Billy Connolly style comedian, but I'm like, hey, how about we record the show, and then whilst I'm uploading and editing the show, well, if I think about what I've been talking about, well, that could be the show title name.
Hmm.
Which is why episode 2, I think it was, is Payday 2 for You and Me Tonight, because what started out as a kind of, hey, I've pre-ordered a Payday 2, turned into like a 20-minute discussion of what we think Payday 2 is going to be. I'm like, well, there's the show title name.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of like stuff like that. I mean, it's a little thing, but to me, I think that's just
It sticks out.
It's just something little, but it's something I think that makes it kind of a little bit more enjoyable.
It definitely sticks out when you're going through your I mean, as I am now, when I'm going through my piles of podcasts, from stuff like Art of Wrestling, Cranky Good Gamers UK, to The Law Live Audio Wrestling, to New Gamer Scene, to sort of TWS, to Wrestling News Short Source, T3, stuff like that, and as I click through them, right, I've got E3 special, E3 special, E3 special, E3 special, a bit more of E3 special, another E3 special, and then yours, which is TGS3 shot through the heart, Sony's to blame, Xbox is a bad game, console. And that sticks out because it's the only one that is an E3 wrap up that doesn't say E3 wrap up.
The reason I like something like that is because it's going to be about E3, and then it kind of gives you an idea of what the show's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's simple, like, oh, if you call something an E3 wrap-up, well, obviously, it's going to be an E3 wrap-up.
Oh, yeah.
But, I mean, obviously, the fact that I've called it Shot Through the Heart, Sony's to blame, Xbox is a bad game console, well, that kind of sets the tone that, hey, this episode is probably going to be a ode to Sony because we think that Sony beat Xbox at E3, which, for the record, they did.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just call it for the record right now. The PlayStation 3 press conference was good, in terms of everything they did, and then that last 5 minutes, they just completely teabagged and raped Xbox.
Mm-hmm. There's a picture that pictures were floating around, stuff like things that Xbox had, basically sort of comparative differences. Now I know a lot of people are doing the Xbox versus PS4. Sorry.
Oh, it's not Xbox versus Rock, was it?
Xbox versus Rock, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Where the Rock has everything but online gameplay, and Xbox has nothing but online gameplay.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. I believe those sort of things are good because I was having a conversation with somebody prior to E3 saying, I'm sticking with Sony because I've been with Sony. I've been getting Sony consoles since PS2, and they've never done me wrong before. Oh well, what about when the network got hacked? Yeah, but the FBI got hacked.
Yeah.
So what? Sony's network got hacked. My account wasn't compromised. I got a bunch of free shit. The FBI got, the serious organized crime agency got hacked, for Christ's sake. You can't go, oh well, Microsoft didn't get hacked. Yeah, that's because Microsoft owns half the internet.
No, because here's the thing that people don't realize is the fact they say Microsoft didn't get hacked. It has. It's been hacked multiple times. But it's just never been as prominent as the PlayStation 3 hack. In 2008, there was actually a hack on the Xbox 360 because I can't remember what the hack was, but it basically took the network down for about a week. But because it was so quietly done, and because Microsoft as much as whether you like it or hate Microsoft, they can be very good at trying to keep things secret. They brought up the Xbox Live network back within a week, and everybody got a free Xbox Live arcade game because it wasn't a serious breach of conduct and nothing actually ever got taken. But because it just got taken down for a week, they gave you a free Xbox Live arcade game, which was, I think, it was Undertow, which is a kind of shitty game, but it was something. But the fact that I just get annoyed when people go, the Xbox has never been hacked. It has, just it's never been to the extent of the PlayStation 3.
Yeah, and because this argument that I had with my friend, was sort of I was fighting for Sony, they were fighting for Xbox, and they were saying, oh well, that more people play Xbox Online. My argument was, yeah, well, people pay to play Xbox Online. I don't want to pay for my internet twice.
Yeah, see, I mean, obviously, the PlayStation 4 did sneakily add in right at the end of the conference that to actually do play online multiplayer for the PlayStation 4, you do technically need a PS Plus subscription, which is, I mean, it's only a $5 a month. I mean, it's not anything too serious. And I mean, obviously, they do the package deals where you can buy like 40 quid and it's like 12 months. So, I mean, it's not a serious thing, but I don't mind. That's the one thing I don't mind paying for with Xbox Live. And I mean, the PlayStation 3 has improved, and there have been problems, but it has improved. But the one thing I do not mind about the Xbox One the Xbox 360 was paying for Xbox Live, because I knew that 95% of the time I was going to get a secure network, it wasn't going to lag, and it was okay. I mean, it's not a knock at PS3, but I personally, for me, I just didn't think the PlayStation Network was as secure as I thought it should be. And I think following the huge PlayStation 3 network outage in 2011, they've done a lot of more steps to make it more secure. And granted, obviously if I had the money to get a PlayStation 3 now, I probably would. But the chances of me getting a PlayStation 3 with a PS4 coming out now, I mean, I'm one of the people where I'm actually kind of considering probably going to the PlayStation 4 this time. The fact that, I mean, the Xbox One, you've got your Halo game and your Forza game, but most of the games apparently they have shown at the Xbox conference is actually either going to PlayStation 4, or ones they're showing at PlayStation 4 are going to Xbox One. So there's no real kind of definitive, this game is uniquely for one console. I mean, the only one that I know off the top of my head exactly is Killer Instinct. Like, that is definitely an Xbox exclusive.
I mean, and obviously, you've got. I mean, I didn't really want to go on to games consoles.
Well, we can talk about it a little bit.
Because I didn't really want to get you to talk about something that you've spent all week talking about.
But I don't mind, because like I said, that's kind of the reason I joined the gamer scene, because I'm a huge video gamer. So I mean, I could talk about consoles for hours on end. I love it. I mean, I got a brand new PC in November of last year, which is a top of the line PC, a custom made one, just so I could go back into the PC market. Because I mean, I've been in the PC market for 10 years or so. So it's like, I want to get one, because in my eyes, I think, and a lot of people's eyes, I think the PC is having a second renaissance. Like, so many more companies are now going towards PC now. So I was like, I want to jump on the bandwagon whilst it's early. I mean, if you look at BioShock Infinite, I got BioShock Infinite for PC. I can max all my settings to Ultra. It's quite possibly the best looking game I've ever seen. On Ultra settings on PC, I might do a quick YouTube video of it. It's absolutely gorgeous. I mean, it's not a graphics thing for me, but it's also kind of a pricing thing for me. I mean, the base model of a PC is going to be expensive. I mean, the PC I got is £1,000, so it's a hefty price. But in terms of the long run, when I'm looking at like how much an Xbox 360 game is compared to a PC, I can play. I don't know why, but a PC game is always 15 quid cheaper for some reason. So I think it's more of a pricing thing for me nowadays.
So obviously, what? So you in brief, because obviously I'm gonna advise people to listen to the podcast that you guys do.
Yeah.
What do you guys think? What do you think? What do you sort of think that sort of in depth? Sort of give me a brief on post E3 where we are. That we weren't before.
Obviously, today is the last day of E3, because I mean, obviously Monday is the conference day, Tuesday to Thursday is when they do all the floor plan stuff and all you actually get to see the games in action. I think. I mean, I said prior to E3, this E3 is going to be the most important E3 quite possibly ever, because it's a new generation, and this is the first time. I think this is the first time ever that two massive giants in consoles are actually going to be releasing pretty much day and date with each other. This is the first time we've ever seen this. And I mean, at E3, I was watching an E3 video yesterday. The actual floor plans, the actual where all the stuff is. The Sony one and the Microsoft one are 5 feet from each other. There's a giant wall dividing them where you can go up and down this walkway. It's about 5 feet. This wall is like the walkway. That's how close they are. I mean, they really are treating it as though it is like a massive wall. I mean, I'm my biggest problem with the Xbox One, and I've said this, is that if you don't live in America, you are buying a broken console, and you
Mm.
can't deny that because they said on the Xbox One reveal back in May that it's going to have live TV, like you can play your cables through your Xbox One. I keep saying 360, your Xbox One, sorry. You got your NBA draft, and they showed up all the apps that are appearing. And there was this really, I don't want to say famous, but this well-known picture that's going around of somebody I think that lives in South America that had the picture of like these are all the apps on the Xbox 360. And there was only like 8 apps they actually had. Like all the apps they showed at the press conference was pretty much all American apps.
Uh-huh.
And I said to, I've been saying on Facebook and Twitter and stuff like that. I went, if you don't live in America, you are buying a games console that for the first year is technically broken.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, most of the stuff that's broken is going to be the entertainment side, where you can, like, watch the live TV and the NBA fantasy draft and all that as well. But then I said, but if you also look at the other thing, it's $499 in America. Convert that to UK right now is about 320 quid. Why are we having to pay an extra £100 because we're paying $429.99? Why are we having to pay an extra £100 for a console that A is broken, B has to have Kinect on whether you like it or not, or C has to be connected? And if you're not connected to the internet once every 24 hours, even if you're playing a single player game like Bioshock Infinite, you cannot play it. Like, I can't justify the extra £100 for something that technically limits you from playing games.
Uh-huh. So, I mean, it's sort of, to brief things a little bit. Prior to E3, a lot was going into this used games debacle.
Yeah.
So, what do we now know? What do we know now that we didn't know? We didn't know then regarding the two major consoles and their policies on used games.
The policy we know for PlayStation 4 as it stands is you can use games. You can, over here in the UK, we have a service called Love Film, which is kind of like GameFly in America, where you can rent games, play them, and then send them back. What we know with the PlayStation 4 is you can do that. We don't know how long it's going to be until we can start doing that for the PlayStation 4, because it could be a bit hard to get rentable copies for the UK, but I think it pretty much could be day in date. For the Xbox One, this is where it gets a bit tricky. You can use used games in terms of if I have a copy of, let's say, Call of Duty, for example, I can hand that copy to Tom right now and he can play it. But if he wants to play it, he has to pay a fee. Now, originally, it was supposed to be stated that the fee was being made by Xbox. But during the E3 press conference we've just had, Microsoft have come out and said that the fee is not done by them, it's done by the development or the publishers of the actual game. So, for example, Call of Duty will be Activision. Activision can price how much this rentable copy is. In terms of actual rentable market, like a GameFly or Love Film, we don't know. It's going to be affected because they have said rentable games will be affected. We just don't know how serious it's going to be affected. Whether you can actually rent a game or you have to buy a used or new version. That's basically the extent of what we know right now. But in terms of used games, the Xbox One still hasn't fully come out with exactly what the policy is. They still have got problems with it because there's still people in both Microsoft's and both Xbox's company still give different answers to everything.
Yeah, that's something I've heard because I've been listening to a lot of E3 wrap-up podcasts and stuff, and that's what a lot of people are saying. That on one hand, Microsoft are saying you'll be fine, you'll be able to play your games. Another hand, they're saying, oh well, there might be a fee, and another hand saying there will definitely be a fee you must pay. And it's sort of like, I don't like the idea of locking a console to one thing, because whilst yes, it's quite easy for me to go, if I were to visit you, log into my account and play the and to play my game, but I mean it's sort of like you shouldn't be punishing people for sharing games with their friends.
I
You
mean,
shouldn't.
I mean, the big thing that's come out recently was Don Matrix, I want to say, whatever it is, Don Matrix, whatever his name is, Matic or whatever it is, gave an interview to, I think it's IGN. This was yesterday, and he said that, hey, for people that haven't got an internet connection, you can get an Xbox 360. And I went, that's just being smug. Because I understand, obviously, your big thing is you want a world that's connected, but to basically say, oh, anybody that's not good, basically to say to people, oh, if you don't have an internet connection, you can't buy our new console, you're alienating quite a lot of people because they need to realize that even in America, not everybody in America runs broadband. It's about 60%.
In fact, this is something that I've wanted to bring. I've wanted to do a Tom Talks on this, but fuck it, it can go in here instead. Last year, 2012, AOL America Online made more profit from sales of AOL dial-up internet than they did from AOL broadband.
That's kind of because AOL broadband is kind of shitty, but
Yeah, but I mean, in terms of who still has AOL dial-up? Unless they're like in the outer Hebrides or something, or the furthest distance out in the Australian outback or something. You know,
I mean,
most people have broadband now. I mean, it's amazing to think.
we complain, the UK, America, Germany, Australia, Japan, all that as well. We complain about our 10 or 20 megabyte internet connection.
Yeah.
I mean, for us, 10 or 20 megabytes isn't like it isn't it's a standard now. Like as a standard, a 20 megabyte internet connection is something you just it's something normal. Sorry for the police sirens in the background. The cars just got past.
That's cool.
But like I said, I think it's something like only 60% of America run an efficient enough broadband that it's actually usable. Most of the people, a lot of people still use a dial-up modem. And I think there's only one guy I think it's like Norway or Finland who pays $100 a month, but he gets 100 megabyte connection, or a gigabyte connection, or it's something silly. And I mean, like, there are supposedly rumors that this 4G, because we're on 3G, I mean, 4G is slowly rolling out in America with LTE and I think it's just LTE at the moment, and they want to bring 4G over here in the UK with like everything. Was it T-Mobile and was it Three? I think have merged to make EE. No, sorry, T-Mobile and Orange.
T-Mobile and Orange, yeah,
have merged to make EE. And this supposed plan is they want to bring 4G to the UK by about 2020, in which this 4G apparently, if what they're saying is going to happen, you could essentially download a movie in seconds, and I mean literally seconds. I mean, if that's going to happen in 7 years, then hey, that's brilliant. But they also state that within the next couple of years, they think that the majority of the developed world is going to be running on quite possibly like a 10 or 20 megabit broadband connection.
Yeah.
So it's a good thing, but it's like they need to realize that you can't. I mean, I know they're jumping on the internet thing early, but not everybody can play it, and that's my major problem. Like, they're alienating such a massive part of their market.
Yeah, I mean, think about somebody who hasn't got a solid internet connection, right? Who is sort of like thinking, well, I'm gonna buy the new Xbox. Not only am I gonna have to pay more for the new Xbox than I am for a new PlayStation.
Yep.
I'm also going to have to get broadband.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you also got the other thing with Connect is this is the one major problem we have with it. I haven't got a Connect for the 360 because personally, I don't like the Connect. I think the Connect there's something that I just don't like about it. And the Xbox One, you have to use Connect. If it's a separate entity. You can apparently pull it out, but if you do pull it out, you can't use your Xbox 360. It essentially shuts itself down. And supposedly there is this pattern that Microsoft has filed, and it is public, which allows them to look at what you're looking at through the Kinect. And they haven't essentially confirmed this, but they all but have. That pretty much the Kinect is always going to be on. And because it's a Microsoft thing, they can actually look and see what you're essentially doing, which is why everybody starts making jokes of saying it's HAL, it's Terminator. All this stuff.
didn't George Orwell write about it?
Yeah, and George Orwell, and obviously it's like it's 1984 in 2013. So,
welcome to Big Brother in the Buchanan household.
oh,
Day 5. James is having a wank.
here's the thing: if if Xbox One was like HAL in terms of you could have it voice modulated and it gave a voice, and I could have the voice of Big Brother, the guy that does Big Brother, I would be tempted to get a Connect just for the simple fact of Day 1, James is playing Grand Theft Auto 4 for the 4th time. Day 2, James has been up for 36 hours and has completed Grand Theft Auto 4. He's going again for the 5th time. Day 5, has this guy got any more games?
Marcus Bentley, we miss you. That's his name.
That, or get the guy from Come Dine With Me. I love that guy so much, just for the simple fact of, yeah, I think this pudding is going to be shit. It is.
I mean, no, I think it's gotta be Marcus Bentley, really. You know, stuff along the lines of, you know, day 7 and day 7, and Tom is trying to remove his Kinect because he's worried about what it can see.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, obviously, everyone was doing the joke of going, well, if you don't like a Kinect, you just put like a towel or a bit of tape over the camera. They can't see. So
I've got this image of the Kinect having like having some sort of thing in place, and like you put a towel or a shirt over the top of it, and like this little sort of metal stick comes out the side and just sort of knocks it off.
well, the one thing that what just to be serious for a second, the one thing that a lot of people have been saying, this is very true. I mean, it's well known in America that, hey, you sue first, you ask questions later. It's very well known that. And if this is true, what Microsoft is doing, it can be considered to be a very breach of security.
Mm-hmm.
It's a breach of privacy. And it's an American console. I think you can tell where I'm going with this. There's going to be a case within that first year if someone's going to sue Microsoft because it's a breach of security. And I generally believe it's going to happen. It will happen. And,
I mean, I can see before that happens somebody getting done because they do something in their house that the Kinect can see, right?
Yeah.
Hell, even if it's you've got your Kinect on top of your console and your console's under your telly, and you sat there with your mates, and you're smoking weed, right? Just you know, something very, very sort of that a lot of people do in their daily life. So I just sat there watching the telly, you know, smoking some dope or something, right? And the Xbox, the Kinect sort of, it's sort of like sort of watching you, and then shortly on, bang, 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 bang at your door, because they pass the information on to the police that you're doing illicit substances.
I mean,
you know, anything that the American government disapproves of, if you get Xbox One, prepare to possibly be done for it.
Yeah, because I mean, that's kind of what a lot of journalists, people like myself, and loads of people are saying is the Xbox One, we still don't know what it does.
No.
We still don't know what the Kinect will actually do. That's like the major problem. Like, that's what everybody was saying was the Wii U. When the Wii U was announced in 2011, a lot of people were like, I was going nuts for the Wii U, but then the more I thought about it, the more I was like, we still don't know actually what it does. And then in E3 2012, we still didn't know what it did.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I mean, like I said, I mean, we've got 5 months until the release. They can, well, everybody, you know, the joke was, you know, Xbox going into E3, do they have a chance not to be better than Sony, but to go on par with Sony because of the shambles of the E3 announcement? And for all safety's sake, they did. Their announcement, their press event was actually really good, but Sony just blew them out of the water just for the last 5 minutes by basically saying you don't need an internet connection, you can rent games, and there's not going to be any like DRM services on there.
How much more though do you think Microsoft will tell people?
They have to confirm the details of the Kinect and this used game policy and the fees you have to pay and stuff like that. They have to tell you before the release. What they actually will tell you, I think this is pretty much it.
Yeah, I think bare minimum.
I don't think there is anything in terms of big. I mean, obviously for us, used games, the price of having to pay for something, that's a big thing. But in terms of them, they've pretty much covered everything they want to cover. There's nothing I don't think they need to say like, oh, this Kinect is going to have like a 1080p camera. Well, I know they've said that, but like, I don't think they're going to say anything like, oh, this Kinect is going to run like full 3D high definition or anything like as a, like a, oh, that's a surprise. I think they've pretty much said everything that they want to say. So.
I can see them. I can see them doing like bare minimum or stuff.
It's damage control. I think what they're going to have to do for the next 5 minutes is that 5 months is damage control, because, like I said, we still don't know half the stuff, and the more they leave not giving an answer, the more damage it's going to, I think, give to the Xbox One.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think they have said that was it on Amazon or something. Xbox One sales are technically out of stock, which take it as you wish, but at this current moment in time, I'm leaning more towards a PlayStation 4.
I can completely see what you're doing there, man.
I mean, it's not to do with the DRM or the internet connections. Like, that's cool, but my reasoning for getting a PlayStation 4 is I actually know what it does.
Yeah.
It's a games console, which they still haven't really announced their media entertainment stuff, which I can only assume they're probably going to do over the next couple of months as like a small update here and there. They're not going to, have a giant... their reveal isn't going to be just a giant, hey, this is the Xbox One, which is a games console, but also this. But, like, I know what a PlayStation 4 can do. I know that I can walk down to my shop right now, buy Call of Duty, come home, stick it in my PlayStation 4, and I know I will play it. With an Xbox One, I know I'm going to play it, but I don't know how long for. I don't know whether I have to constantly be doing stuff. I don't know where I've got to download something. I don't know whether it's going to interfere with my Skype or... The Xbox One is still, I think, way too complicated than what it's trying to be.
Yeah, completely. I mean, obviously, I've got on my PS3 in the other room. I've got stuff like I've got on my PS3. I've got stuff like iPlayer, YouTube, 4OD, and stuff like that. But apart from that, I don't need any more of that stuff. I've already got a TV service downstairs that we can watch telly on. I've got the internet on my laptop in the office. I don't need my The only thing that interests me about the next gen of the consoles is, and I really hope we know more about this soon, the that share function that the PS3 is talking about, share your videos to YouTube and stuff like that. Yeah, that would make my gameplay stuff so much more easier if it would let you commentate over the top of it.
Yeah, I believe it was... I don't know if Call of Duty Black Ops 1 did it, but I know Black Ops 2, I think, did it, where you can essentially go live streaming via their own inbuilt servers, or you could upload, I think, like certain bits to YouTube. I think you could do it with the Halo series. I could be wrong. The one thing I'm interested in is this Twitch Ustream capability. Now, I think Sony made a giant misstep by taking on Ustream. Yeah. Because I think Ustream is kind of crap. Supposedly there are rumors going around that Twitch could actually go into PlayStation 4 as well. So, at the moment, all we know is that Twitch is Xbox One and Ustream is PlayStation 4. But I like this whole idea of streaming your game to an online service, because it's kind of hard at the moment to do it with an Xbox 360, and you need to have a stable internet connection. You need to have at least a 10 or 20 meg internet connection, because you need to have your upload, I think, to at least 3 or 4 to get, I think, at least a stable one. But the problem I have with this, there are a lot of problems with these consoles I've got, but the majority, there are a lot more majority of positives, but there are a lot of problems I've got with them. But the problem I have with this inbuilt streaming service is because if you want, anybody can record anything on Twitch or anything like that. Mm-hmm. And there are some people that do it well. There are some people that do it even better than the people that do it well. You've obviously got people like the Creatures or whatever it is they call themselves, the Creature Hub. Like, that's one of the most well-known video gaming groups on YouTube now, with Uber Hacks and Over and Sly Fox, I think it is, and all the other people. Like, that's one of the most well-known ones. And then obviously you've got your other people as well that either specifically are on YouTube or do some stuff on Twitch. My problem is it's great seeing them, But then when the Xbox 3, Xbox One, and the PlayStation 4 comes out, we're going to get thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people going, well, I can do that. And I think it's just going to completely destroy what Twitch and Ustream are. Because it's going to make it harder for me to actually find the stuff I actually want to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, I also want to know how many servers are they going to put up, because at the moment they've got enough servers to run, because obviously not everybody can run Xbox 360 or PC games. Say, for example, I think it was the the PlayStation, I think, has just sold over, was it like 70 million units or something in total, I want to say, or something like that. Something silly like that. Say, for example, 10 million of those will probably use that, or no, probably about 20 million will probably use that functionality. How many more servers or server space are people like Twitch and Ustream going to have to need to just combat the rise of people wanting to stream?
I mean, the console companies must have had these conversations with them and said, look, this is what we want to do. You know, you're going to have to be ready for this shit, because if we do this and our console comes out on X date, right?
Yeah.
And within a week your servers go down, we are going to look like the prize prince of twats.
Yeah, because also, here's the one interesting thing. I just want to put one more. This is the last thing I really want to talk about in terms of the Xbox and the E3 conferences, because I'm going to be doing another show with Martin either tomorrow or Saturday, where we're going to be talking E3 in general in terms of EA and Ubisoft press conference and anything we've seen on the show floor.
That's cool.
But the one interesting thing about this, and we still don't know this about the Xbox, is how much their games are going to cost. The PlayStation 4 has come out and they've officially said it's going to be anywhere between $1 and $60. So they're not increasing their prices for this generation, which I am completely in line with, because I've said that if they want to do well in this generation, you can't increase them just yet. Next generation, you can. This generation, you can't, because we're still in that format of I couldn't justify an extra $10 or $20 on a new game because it would, because of whatever. For the Xbox One, we still don't know what the prices of the games are going to be.
Yeah.
And if the console is $100 more than the PlayStation 4, I can only assume they're going to price their games possibly $70, $80, $90.
Oh yeah.
So I mean that in itself is going to limit your purchase, which means more people are going to buy used games, which means more money is going to go to the publishers, and you're going to kind of create a vicious circle in my eyes.
Yeah, completely. And that's not really a good idea. It's a terrible idea to it's a terrible idea for them to sort of try and sell their games at that kind of price. I mean, we're still sort of having a worldwide recession now.
You
know, no, I couldn't afford to buy games at like 100 quid or something. No way.
I mean, because also the record is like, Sony are bad at currency conversion rates. Like, pardon me, sorry about that. Sony are bad at currency conversion rates because they think $60 in America equivalates to about 50 quid in the UK. They're kind of bad. Microsoft are terrible at currency conversion rates. They think that $60 in America is £60 in the UK. So, for example, you can buy Call of Duty Black Ops 2. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, on their Games on Demand service for 50 quid. I can walk down to my local game store right now, pick up a brand new copy for at tops 30.
Yeah.
Like, they have no idea about currency conversion rates. It really bugs me so much. And also, for the record, if anybody from Rockstar is listening to this, I mean, I'm a big fan of GTA 5. Can you please put Red Dead Redemption on PC? Please. Because Red Dead Redemption on PC would look amazing.
And I'd love them to do a sequel to it. I really would. Red Dead Redemption 2. Let's go more into detail about John Marsden's son.
Yeah, here's the funny thing. I was watching the E3 Microsoft press conference with my friend Kieran and Martin, and when it opened up with what was essentially Metal Gear Solid 5, Shadow, it's not Shadow Pain, is it? What's it called? I keep forgetting what the Metal Gear game's called now.
Is it the Phantom Pain?
Phantom Pain? That's it. Don't know why I said Shadow Pain, but yeah, Phantom Pain. And the trailer starts off with a guy on a horseback wearing a cloak, and it looks very Red Dead Redemption. And we all just said to each other, Red Dead Redemption 2? It looks so much like Red Dead Redemption, but Metal Gear Solid 5 is awesome. But I think following GTA 5, Red Dead Redemption 2 has to be confirmed because they've done Max Payne. LA Noire isn't going to get a sequel. They've got this PlayStation game in the works called, I think, Agent, which has been in works for God knows how many years. Like, the only game they've got, unless they do a new franchise, is Red Dead Redemption.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm a gaming nerd.
I think, but I mean, I mean, let's talk a little bit about that game in that game in particular because I mean, you're a big fan of Rockstar games.
Oh, yeah.
I remember the first time I played Red Dead Redemption. Did you think you'd done something wrong? It's a couple of years. It's a couple of years on, so I think we can spoil the ending a little bit, right? But
yeah, and
did you think you'd done something wrong?
What did you mean, like in terms of John Marston dying?
Yeah.
I didn't because, like you said, I'm a big fan of Rockstar games, and Rockstar games are kind of like Game of Thrones, in the terms that, oh, everybody likes this guy, well, let's just kill him.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody likes this bad guy. Oh well, he's going to be, he's going to be so good. He's going to get so close to getting what he wants, and we're going to kill him. Like, John Marston was such a likable character, and the fact that I think it was Edgar Ross was there was like going, oh, he was all being nice, and then secretly behind him, he was, like stabbing him in the back and all that as well. And I'm sitting there thinking, I didn't call that Marston was going to die like he did, but I was thinking, I have this weird feeling because Edgar Ross is part of the government. I was thinking, are they going to arrest him, or are they going to, put him on? I thought they were going to do something, but I didn't think they were going to brutally massacre him like they did with the last. That's one of the few games where when you got to play as Jack Marston,
mm-hmm.
and you could, essentially that was the last mission in the game, but like the epilogue was you could go and kill Edgar Ross. He was in Mexico, wasn't he? He fled to Mexico following everything that went on. He fled to Mexico. You can go to Mexico, and I remember doing the quick draw battle with him and killing him. And then I remember his body had just wasn't in the water enough. Like, he just stayed on land. And I remember I think I had I unloaded every single bullet in all of my guns just into his chest. I was like, fuck you. Fuck you for everything. You killed my dad. Screw you.
I mean, one thing about that game, which when you look back at it, having played through the entire thing, all of the way through the game, John Marston is doing all this illegal shit just so that his son doesn't become an outlaw like he once was. Yeah. And then in the end, his son becomes an outlaw anyway. And it's just, that is, I mean, legitimately, when I was playing that game, right, I was thinking, there's a load of blokes. I can beat them, I'll hide behind the door and do some pot shots and stuff like that, And then I get pumped through and I'm thinking, oh, shit, okay, the screen's going to go red now and I'm going to get the game over screen. Wait, what? I'm not getting the game over screen. What the fuck? My God,
I think the thing that really pushed it to me in terms of just how masterfully well done it was, I think the writing in that game is quite possibly the best writing of this generation. I mean, Last of Us is coming out tomorrow in the UK. Yeah. I think it's just come out in America, and everybody's saying that Last of Us is quite possibly the best game of this generation. It's absolutely incredible, and I'd love to play it if I get the chance. But I think at this current moment in time, Red Dead Redemption is the best written game I've ever played. And the thing that got it to me, the thing that really just tugged at my heart, was John Marston dies, and then you get the opening shot of the next scene, which is Jack Marston with his horse just behind him, looking at two graves, one of his mum and one of his dad.
Yeah.
And there's no tombstones or anything. It's just a stick with in a cross, and I'm like, dude, that's really kind of heavy for I think he's only 17, and he's actually just seen his mum and dad being shot right in front of him. Like that's some heavy stuff.
I mean, there was also those references about whether, because obviously Red Dead Redemption isn't the first game in the series, you could say, because
Yeah, it was Red Dead Revolver was the
yeah,
first one.
and there are loads of rumors that went around. I don't know whether they're true. That the old man with the stained beard is the guy from Red Dead Revolver.
Oh, what the guy you play as?
Yeah,
Um,
it's never been proven, but I'd like to believe it's
it,
true.
it does make sense because I'm looking at this right now. Red Dead Revolver takes place in the 1880s, and Red Dead Redemption takes place just
Like
as
in the
like like
20s or
like the
30s.
middle of the nine. I think it's like 1910 or something. It sort of goes around as it's like just at the time that America starts becoming a more developed nation. So that kind of does ring true.
Yeah, and I mean, I played through that game I think twice. Undead Nightmare I wasn't too enamored with because Undead Nightmare was the zombie version that they brought out as a bonus thing.
Hmm.
What were your thoughts on that?
I was glad it was developed as DLC. I mean, I know you could buy it separately now and I think it was always a budget title for the fact that you could buy it separately. It was never a full price title, but I had no problem with it because Red Dead Redemption was such a serious, such a developed game. Like everything about it, like everything you did in Red Dead Redemption, there was a point to it. There was a reason as to why you did everything. Whereas I think Undead Nightmare was just it almost felt like the team was like, we've made the serious game, now we can let off some steam, have a bit of a laugh, have a bit of a joke. It's like Far Cry 3. Far Cry 3 is a
Mm,
very serious game. Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon is just a complete, just nutso by butso, just balls to the walls action game. And I think it's just another one of those times where the serious game has been made. Now we can just let off some steam and have some fun. I think that's what Undead Nightmare was.
mm. I mean, it was a great idea. The whole you've only got limited bullets. You've got to be fruitful. I found myself fighting off a horde of zombies with just a flaming torch on numerous occasions. But in terms of the new GTA that's coming out, on a scale of 1 to 1 million, exactly how excited are you?
Um, on a scale of 1 to 1 million,
It's got to
the population of Earth.
it's got to be 2 million at least.
It's the population of Earth right now, which is just over 7 billion.
So
I'm
you know,
so excited for that game.
so tell us a little bit about how you got so into Grand Theft Auto in general. What was your first Grand Theft Auto game?
Grand Theft Auto 1. I have been a fan of Rockstar games since Grand Theft Auto 1. I mean, I think Rockstar have done, and obviously, I think they've. I'm going to have a look right now. I think Rockstar. I think that was their first game in the Grand Theft Auto series. I could be wrong. Let's have a look. Uh, Sorry about this. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, I think Grand Theft Auto was their first series. Like
Mm.
that was the first game they did. And obviously, they've done like Agent, Midnight Club, Manhunt, Max Payne, all that lot as well. But I played Grand Theft Auto 1 possibly, 1999? I think I was. I think it was. I played it. So what? That would have made me, 10, I think it was? Like 9 or 10. So,
I mean,
I've been playing them since a young age.
yeah, they made two. They made two numbered Grand Theft Autos. Obviously, there was stuff like Grand Theft Auto London and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Um,
they've done two versions of London. They've done one which was 1961 and one that was 1969, I think.
what did you make of those versions? I mean, because they look to me just like rescaled versions of the same game that you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think because Rockstar is actually here's the one thing that I love is everybody goes, "Oh, Rockstar's amazing." Like the majority of the Rockstar company sits in America, but most of the actual GTA games are actually made in Glasgow. I think it is. Like they're made in Scotland, which is just like it's just like such a mind-blowing thing that you know, considerably one of the biggest companies in the world in terms of video game is actually a little pokey place in Glasgow. But I never had a problem with the original Grand Theft Auto games because at the time they were so violent, unique, different that I thought, hey, I mean, I wasn't expecting like massive 3D graphics of oh look, here's Westminster Abbey, but I thought it was a laugh and it was a joke, and
Hmm.
I kind of liked them. It wasn't until Grand Theft Auto 3 when we started seeing the 3D representation of what it
That's
could
something.
do.
That's something I want to get onto next. So,
Yeah,
when the PlayStation 2 console came out, and Rockstar, because the first GTA I saw was GTA 3, and Rockstar, who obviously you were a big fan of their games at that point, brought out this new version of Grand Theft Auto 3D based in a city very similar to, I think it was New York, wasn't
New
it?
York. Yeah.
Very similar to New York. What were your first thoughts upon seeing that game?
First of all, obviously, massive leap, huge leap. That the fact that it was first of all 3D representation. The fact that your character could speak as well was a big thing because Grand Theft Auto like the voices in Grand Theft Auto was literally just
The GTA 3 bloke didn't was silent. GTA 3 man,
yeah. So yeah,
who we later discovered to be Claude
yeah.
Speed,
Sorry, yeah.
was a silent
Sorry, I
protagonist.
was thinking of Tommy Vercetti in Vice City, but the fact that this was the first game in which there was legitimate dialogue in terms of Sylvia with Leone and everybody else involved, that was huge for me. And I played that game for hours and hours on end. I thought it was such a. I mean, obviously, it ramped up the violence. There was a lot more different. I mean, you could have like chainsaws, and the missions were more expansive. I thought it was, and the idea that you had third islands and stuff like that as well. I thought it was such a leap forward, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, recently on the PSN, they were letting you download the old Grand Theft Auto games like that for like under a tenner each. And I think I got a bunch of them for £7 a piece, which is awesome.
I can tell you something even more awesome than that. I've currently right now got Grand Theft Auto 3 on my iPhone.
That is really cool.
The last 2 years they've released Grand Theft Auto 3 and Vice City for your iPhone.
How does the control system play on the iPhone?
Terrible. You have to get an iPad for it.
Yeah.
The screen's way too small for an iPhone. It's definitely an iPad. You can play it on an iPhone, but I recommend if you have an iPad, get it on the iPad because it's so much simpler.
Yeah, and obviously, after they did GTA 3, which obviously was a huge step forward,
Massive hit, massively done.
Then they let's talk a bit about some of the stuff that was in that game. I mean, obviously Rockstar have always been violent with their GTA games, but I mean, I laugh at some of the stuff they have in it. Donald Love sleeps with corpses. And all that sort of stuff.
Was it like Love Fist in Vice City or something where like one of them was constantly high or something, and then like they do the part of the movie. I think it was from what's the movie? I can't remember what it is, but the movie with the bus or whatever it is, where they're in the limo or something.
Speed.
You have to maintain a constant speed, otherwise the thing blows up. Like what I love about the GTA games is they're a parody of themselves.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that, hey, this game's violent and, they like taking the piss out of each other. Then they take the piss out of themselves in the game. It's brilliantly done.
And obviously, once they did GTA 3, they popped up with GTA Vice City. Now, GTA Vice City based in Miami, really, how happy were you when you got that game and your character could finally express himself?
I was worried when they called it Vice City because I know they'd done the expansion packs, 61 and 69, but they were specifically titled as expansion packs. They weren't a separate game. They were expansions essentially to GTA 1 and 2. This was the first game. This was the first in a long series of games where there was no actual number to it, which, I mean, I was kind of happy with that, but I was also kind of worried because when you start getting into, because I thought this was Grand Theft Auto 3.5 essentially. Like this was the stopgap between this and 4. But we got to San Andreas and like Liberty City stories and Vice City stories and all that as well. But I thought that Vice City quite possibly was the best PlayStation 2 game of the lot.
I mean, and of course there's the incredible likeness between Tommy Vercetti and Claude Speed.
Oh yeah.
I thought it was the same bloke.
That, and then obviously you had
he starts out in Liberty City Prison,
And then the one thing I loved from Vice City was, it was 80. It was all about the 80s. So what's the first thing you do? Well, you stick Tommy Vercetti in a Hawaiian like blue T-shirt.
Yeah, a
Like,
Hawaiian shirt and blue jeans.
and I remember I think I can't remember what it was, but there was one mission or something. They were like, "Hey, you've got to deck yourself out." So he comes out of this clothes
Pastel
store,
suit.
like a pink suit with like moccasins on, and
The
like,
the pink pastel suit.
yes, the Vince McMahon suit as I call it now.
It really is. So obviously, following the following GTA Vice City, they then did something that they hadn't. That I don't think they'd done in a Vice City for a long time. They went with a black protagonist in GTA San Andreas.
Yeah, and I mean the best thing about San Andreas was Vice City. All the GTA games up to that point was their own like story. Like whilst San Andreas was essentially its own story, it actually took a lot from the 1992 Los Angeles riots. With, like Tenpenny was the corrupted cop, Pulaski was his wingman, CJ, Smoke, and everybody in the Grove Street group were, had problems with like the Ballers and the Mexican group, and there was all this infighting, and the fact that one of them got thrown out and sent to, was Cart CJ was essentially became the bitch of everybody. Big Smoke was secretly part of the police kind of thing, like helping the police and helping the Ballers, take down Grove Street and all that as well. It was a very very well done game, and it was the biggest game of its time.
Yeah, and in that game, we also saw how it linked into the timeline of other games, because the protagonist from GTA 3, who we've been calling Claude Speed because that's his name, pops up prior to GTA 3.
That was a great Easter egg. That was a great Easter egg where when you do the race going into San Fierro, I think it is. I could be wrong. I haven't played the story to San Andreas.
I believe it's the race called Wuzimu, where you meet the blind triad.
Yeah, I haven't played San Andreas in so long, but I remember that when I remember you do these missions with Catalina, like robbing these things, and I remember she's going like, "Oh, I'm going to go to," I think it was like Liberty City or New York, wherever it is, and then out pops the car, it's Claude Speed, and you're like, "That's cool. That's a really," and then it's like, and it looks just as it looks like Claude's about to speak, you hear Catalina go, "Come on, baby," you're like, "Damn it!"
Yeah, and he's in the same outfit that. Oddly, and this is something that it's probably a little plot hole, really, right?
I think it was an Easter egg.
Well, no, I mean in terms of a plot hole. When GTA 3 started, he was in prison whites, right? Prison oranges, right? Prison suit, and then they went to the Eddie's place, and he found his outfit for the game, which was the black leather jacket and the green trousers. He was wearing those in his appearance in San Andreas, which is supposed to be before that, when he doesn't have those clothes. Unless, I mean, we have to assume that those are his clothes and he lived at Eddie's place and that's where he stashed his only pair of clothes. That's what we've got to assume, but
yeah, I mean that's kind of the thing.
It's a slight little plot hole, but that's me just being a pedantic dick looking for plot holes,
No, I do agree. I understand where you're coming from. I think. Yeah, because Grand Theft Auto 3 was 2001 and San Andreas was 92. So obviously, but there was never any in a set amount of time of how long he was in prison for. So I think it's just one of those things you have to take with a grain of salt. But I do get where you're coming from.
Yeah, but I mean, it's only a slight thing, but sometimes the small things matter.
Yeah.
And then obviously that's when obviously then they did the crossover games on the PSP.
Yeah,
and then they later bought Liberty and Vice City Stories, and they later bought them to PlayStation 2 as well. Did you play those?
I did. I wasn't really big fans of them. I thought that as a PSP game they were great, but I think they should have kept as a PSP games. I didn't think they were that enjoyable, to be honest. I think they're the weakest of the franchise.
I found Liberty City Stories to be a bit meh, but they did bring in a new element to Vice City Stories with the whole taking over all of the businesses in town. That was good. working your way around, taking every business, starting off small with a small time prostitution rank, which was essentially a wooden hut full of women, to having this like massive skyscraper full of prostitutes, and stuff like that. That was a really good thing, and I do play that game from time to time just to sort of, I did play that game for weeks and months, at the time, and that was a fantastic game to play. And it also, both games, Liberty City Story and Vice City Story, sit before their main game counterpart, including, and there is also the one plot hole that obviously when they made Vice City, they didn't plan Vice City Stories because Tommy is doing a drug deal with two Mexican gentlemen that you're supposed to believe are the Vance brothers.
Mm.
Two Mexican gentlemen. Oh, hello, amigo. And it's sort of like, well, in Vice City Stories, he was black. And it's sort of like, obviously they didn't plan that, but hey, again, pedantic dick here. I'm going to bring this shit up.
Yeah, like I said, I wasn't a big fan of the Liberty City Stories, so I completely agree. So.
In fact, I've got a game that's probably worse than those two. The one that they brought out. The other one, another one that came out on the PSP, but was originally for the Nintendo DS. I don't know if you know of it. Grand Theft Auto Chinatown Wars.
Yeah, I wasn't. I think we should just skip that. That wasn't the best.
I mean, obviously, it is a bit. It is more back towards what you originally got into, the Grand Theft Auto top-down view.
Yeah, so it was great for nostalgia, but
it wasn't good.
It wasn't good. It really wasn't that good. Kenny
Wu was the main villain.
Yeah.
The main villain also being your first employer. Hey, Grand Theft games do that a lot. And then obviously, as the PS2 started to wind down, and the PS3 appeared on our desks next to our TV, Grand Theft Auto returned with Grand Theft Auto 4.
I like this. This one has garnered a lot of mixed reception. It's critically acclaimed as one of the as an amazingly well done game, but it's got a lot of criticism in terms of the fact that it went in a more serious route. Because every Grand Theft Auto up to this point was, whilst there were serious elements in there, it was always known as being arcadey. It was all about having a laugh, having some jokes. This one was a lot more serious, and I like the seriousness in this because this felt like a definite vengeance/revenge story, and it felt like you were living as a guy, because the majority of the story is Nico has arrived in the US. He's never been to the United States before, and I felt like it was a great way to take it seriously because you're going through this game never having played it before, so you've never seen anything before. So you're basically living your ideas through Nico, because Nico's never seen America until you play as him. And I thought it was a brilliantly well done idea.
Yeah. Now, the one thing I didn't like was the fact that they called it Liberty City and then changed the layout of the city.
Yeah, this was just New York again, but
more so, I mean, Statue of Liberty turned up, for fuck's sake, I would have really loved if they gave us the opportunity to go back to just one of the missions. I mean, they did it in San Andreas. They could have done it in GTA 4, right? That mission that was set in Marco's Bistro, a building we could never enter in GTA 3. I would have loved it if in GTA 4 they said, "Oh well, we've this person you've got to kill, Nico, has gone out. Is Miami west of New York? East of New York?
Miami south.
Has run off to the south. He's somewhere down in Vice City. You've got to go and get him. And one mission, and just let you run around, and just let you go chase this bloke through the streets of sort of modern day, because GTA 4 is more modern day, of modern day Vice City, and just sort of show you stuff like, as you drive past, a lot of the buildings are crumbled and stuff like that. That would have been a fantastic thing.
Yeah, I think the only problem with that, though, is because GTA 5 is actually set in the year it was released, 2008, so Vice City was 80s, San Andreas was 90s, GTA 3 was 2001, so I think it was kind of a good idea they didn't do that, because then that really would have screwed up the timeline between all the GTA games.
Yeah, but I mean, they could have sort of written it up that, post, this game, GTA 4 is set probably 10 years after any other GTA game. So
Yeah,
you could have sort of said, this is how Vice City has deteriorated while no one's been around.
yeah, that's definitely something they could have done.
Because the last time we saw Vice City, Tommy Vercetti owned it with an iron fist.
Oh yeah. So I mean, I believe in San Andreas, and I think in GTA 4 they do make references to like GTA 3 and Vice City and like small comments, but in terms of like an actual, here do this kind of thing, no, they completely dismiss it.
Now, obviously, as with all of the other GTA games we've talked about, GTA 4 had its fair share of side games. In the case of GTA 4, it had The Lost and the Damned and The Ballad of Gay Tony.
Best DLC of this generation.
I bought them as separate disc games.
Yeah, I got them. I got them when they came out in DLC, and I'll say this for the record: the Ballad of Gay Tony is quite possibly the best DLC of this generation.
Yeah,
absolutely amazingly well done story.
The only problem I had with them was they sort of took elements of GTA that we hadn't done a lot of in GTA 4 and made them center stage. The Ballad of Gay Tony has a lot of helicopter flying.
Yeah, the Ballad of Gay Tony goes back to it's like Vice City and San Andreas of GTA, whereas Lost and the Damned, I think, is just an expansion to the a main GTA 4 story. But the great thing about these expansions is all the expansions all have a similarity to what the main story was all about.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best thing I love about these. Like, it wasn't just an expansion pack for the sake of an expansion pack. This expansion pack actually had some reasoning to why it was made.
In the Ballad of Gay Tony, I think it was the Ballad of Gay Tony, because both of the two games cross over with the standard GTA 4. That's fantastic that they cross over with it, that they happen at the same time. In one of the missions, you could actually run up and fight with Nico. Did you try and kill him?
No, I always kept Nico alive. I thought Nico was awesome.
In the one mission where he ran into him, I did try and kill him, and honestly, they've pretty much given the guy God mode. I pumped like 2,500 bullets into the guy's face, and he didn't go down. It took so much to put him down. Eventually, I took him down with explosives, but it's because obviously Nico isn't supposed to die there, so the game makes it nigh on impossible for you to do it. But it was fun to try.
Oh yeah, I think, like I said, I still think to this day the fact that the main story in GTA 4 was the whole diamonds and trying to find the diamonds, and the fact that you can actually play it from 3 different perspectives, and then there's the bit where you go to the museum and you actually get to play it from those 3 different perspectives. I think is like, I know it sounds weird, but isn't it ironic? You can play it from 3 different perspectives, and GTA 5 you can play from 3 different perspectives.
Oh yeah,
as the core game. Like,
yeah,
you look back at it now and you're thinking, crafty bastards.
They tried it out first, and then now they've made it a big feature.
They tried it out. You don't think anything of it, and then you look back at it and you're like, you crafty bastards.
Now, obviously, let's talk about GTA 5. GTA 5 due out later this year.
For the record, I say this every single time people want to talk about GTA 5. I have this week off of work. That is how much I'm looking forward to this game.
So let's talk. Of GTA 5, there's a lot of elements that we don't know about, and there's stuff that we do know about. What one element of GTA 5, if you had to pick one, is the one that you're most excited for?
Probably the fact that you can play as 3 protagonists from the core of the game. Probably that, along with the GTA has always had this ability that whenever you're playing a game, you can only play a certain part of the game first, and then once you get to a certain part of the game, then the second island where it goes. GTA 5, they've confirmed that from day one, from the moment you start playing that game, the entire island is unlocked for you to explore.
That's awesome. Is it set in? Where's it set?
It's set in Los Santos, but specifically Los Santos. They've said that you know, the original idea was San Andreas, like that was the supposed rumor, but it's being set in San Andreas's state or whatever it's called, region or whatever it is, but it's being targetly specifically Los Santos because they want to basically give Los Santos like the most. I don't know how you want to say it. Like, kind of like Liberty City. It wants to be like the most realistic kind of Liberty Los Santos they can do.
Is it the same Los Santos that we know from before?
No, apparently they're completely redoing it. It's completely because the entire map is majority Los Santos, but it's been completely remastered and redone.
I'm sort of okay. That's okay, you know. But I mean,
but the reason I'm saying that though is because the map for San Andreas, the maps for San Andreas combined together was I think it's something like 64 square kilometers. The map for this alone is 256.
Wow.
But here's the funny thing is that's small.
Yeah.
Because the largest map, if you don't count stuff like the Elder Scrolls, I think it's Dragon Age 2 or whatever it's called, which is like 60,000 or something ridiculous, but that's MMO. The biggest game you can get right now in terms of a map size is Just Cause 2, which is clocks in at just over 900 square kilometers. Like that is huge. But the thing is though, that game is huge, but the quality isn't that great because it's a lot of the same. Whereas this game, they've cut it down to 256, but they're saying that they're going to be it's going to be like LA Noire. It's going to be like realistic, not realistic, but it's going to be filled with quality and it's going to be more well refined than.
So are we finally going to be able to enter the majority of buildings?
I think you will be, or if not, if you can't enter the majority of buildings, the buildings you probably can enter are going to be like properly well done and not just like a half-assed attempt, because that's been my one problem with a lot of the GTA games. Whenever you enter a building, it always looks half-assed than the actual game itself.
Yeah. Now, obviously, in terms of older GTAs, when there were buildings that you couldn't enter, that you just couldn't walk into them. Like, you know, I certainly hope that they go away from having a big massive reticle to say you can go in here.
I think they should follow the LA Noire concept, because I think the LA Noire concept was brilliant. You can enter any store in LA Noire that has a gold bar across it, but it's not like. What's great about that is it's not so overpowering that you can't see. Like, it's just enough so that you can visibly see it, but it's not overly well done so that it's like, oh, it's blinding you in the face.
Yeah, the big yellow triangle from San Andreas.
Yeah.
But obviously, that game will be out later this year. Now, obviously, the thing with GTA that has happened since GTA went 3D, they have that when GTA went 3D on the PS2 back in the PS2 days, GTA inadvertently created a genre known as the GTA clone.
Yes.
A third-person open-world video game kind of idea. Stuff to the example of Saints Row.
Yes.
So have you played any of the Saints Rows, and what are your thoughts on them?
I have. I've played all of them. I mean, the best thing to say is I don't know how GTA 5 looks like it's going to be serious, but it looks like they're taking it more of an arcadey route again. Like, it's supposed to be a bit more sort of silly and a bit like, you know, crazy again. But the great thing about Saints Row is when GTA 4 was taken seriously, Saints Row basically took the arcade and silliness from GTA and done it in their own way. So if you, I will say this, if you play the old Grand Theft Auto games and you like the silliness and you don't like GTA 4, Saints Row has got you covered. Because that's what Saints Row is. Saints Row is just, it's all about balls to the walls. Like, hey, if you want to have a dildo gun that can shoot flames and you can have a penis the size of the Empire State Building, well, by God, you can.
Yeah.
Like, that's Saints Row for you.
Yeah, that's definitely, you know, the first Saints Row I ever played was Saints Row 2, and I was incredibly impressed with that. You know, I mean, I don't know if you're a viewer of stuff like Zero Punctuation.
Indeed, I am.
But I believe Yahtzee's words on that were, so within an hour I had my bowler hat, 3-piece suit, wearing Cockney accented psychopath with matching two-tone leather shoes, and that's all I did. I did that.
I mean, the best example of how crazy this game is, if you look at the current Saints Row 4 trailers that are coming through at the moment with stuff like, was it like the dubstep gun and this gun that like makes your head like grow huge, your eyes pop out and explode kind of thing. Like that is basically what Saints Row is. It's not meant to be taken seriously. It's just meant to be for you just to jump in, have a laugh, have a joke, and just go
Yep.
nuts.
I mean, I played Saints Row the Third, and I mean, I've got like 96% on it, which is incredible for me because I don't usually stick with games like that, but I absolutely love that game. You know, within about an hour and a half of the game, you've got an 8 foot tall, bald, naked German bloke following you around.
Yeah, and it's
You know,
like, um, like one of the first missions is, I still think one of the greatest things I remember watching this for the first time was you end up doing a drive-by on a aeroplane.
yeah.
Like the whole idea is you drop Shandy or however you say her name, you then shoot through the window of the plane, killing the guy that killed Johnny Gat. As you're flying through all of the doors, you
hmm
shoot a guy in the face, and you're literally just flying through. And then as you fly out, the plane explodes. I'm like, okay, that's Saints Row.
Legitimately, the first mission in the game.
Yeah.
You know, well, I suppose the second mission really, because the first mission is the bank job where you're all wearing those heads.
Yeah, like
But
that's brilliant. Johnny Gat, like robbing a bank, dressed as Johnny Gat
yeah,
in
and
in a voice modulation. We're going, why are we wearing a voice modulation? So they don't know who we are.
yeah, you know, and you've got that mission, you've got that second mission on the plane, you know, and legitimately because that game for me, because I've played it with only one voice. Did you play with the Cockney voice?
I played with the zombie voice
I played with the Cockney voice.
and the zombie voice, and this is dead serious. The zombie voice carries through the entire game.
Yeah.
So if any cutscene in which your character talks, he does actually talk like a zombie.
So sort of like you know, or does he
Yeah,
act, or does he actually say words that we can understand?
no, he actually, all you get from it is like, you get the subtitles coming up of what he's saying, but all you get is.
Well, I've always played it with the Cockney voice, provided by Charles somebody or other. I'll pull up his name I'll pull up his name while we're talking. But and literally one of his lines, some of his wisecracks are fantastic. Along, you know, stuff like he's done that thing where he's dropped Shaundy in midair. He's gone through this crashing plane, killed a load of people, come back round, head dive towards Shaundy, caught her because she hasn't got a parachute, whereas he has. Right, caught Shaundy, pulled the cord on his parachute to bring his reserve chute out, and literally his line is, "Did you miss me?" and you know, I mean, that is just, you know, some of his wisecracks are fantastic. I mean, when he walks in, he realizes that the mayor is Burt Reynolds.
Oh, that was.
He walks in and he realizes the mayor is Burt Reynolds. Everyone else is like, yeah, and what, you know, here's Mayor Reynolds, you know, and he's like, the mayor is fucking Burt Reynolds, you know. And it's sort of like that. It's just brilliant, you know. And then he fangirls. Oh, Mr. Reynolds, Mr. Reynolds, I'm a huge fan, you know. I don't know
Yeah.
whether he does that if you use the other voices, but that really works because it fits, you know. Because he's like, and the original Cockney voice was supposed to be like a Londoner who was a big gangster before, but then came to America, and you know, it kind of fits.
I still think as the wrestling connection we can bring in, I still think the best idea was having Rob Van Dam and Hulk Hogan in the game.
I didn't know it's Rob Van Dam.
I think Rob Van Dam's in the game because he plays. I don't know. Hulk Hogan is the guy that helps you, but I believe Rob Van Dam, when you're doing the wrestling match, I think Rob Van Dam's the commentator.
I didn't notice that. I'll have to look back on that. I didn't notice
Yeah,
that. I knew Hulk Hogan played Angel de la Muerte.
yeah. Rob, I'll find the video for you, but I believe Rob Van Dam.
Who voiced Kilbane? Kilbane? Because I
Oh,
always thought that would have been brilliant if that was Hogan, but it wasn't, was it? Kilbane wasn't Hogan at all.
I'll have a look.
Yeah, we are totally gonna look that up. But obviously, Saints Row the Third is one of my favourite games to date. You know, and there's so
Rick D. Wasserman. or Wasserman, I don't know how you say his name.
Yeah.
He was in Batman Arkham City as Clayface. He was Imperius in Diablo 3. That's what I'm trying to find anything else that people might know him as. He was in Marvel Heroes as Thor, Bullseye, Cloak and Wizard. That's probably what most people are going to remember him from. He was in Gears of War 3, Dragon Age 2.
Yeah,
So he's been,
one of the commentators is RVD.
yeah.
That's really, really cool, you know.
Because I remember like, hey, we get to do a wrestling match in there, and like you hear Hulk Hogan and all that, and all of a sudden I'm like, wait, that sounds like Rob Van Dam. It is awesome.
I honestly didn't notice that at all. I absolutely didn't notice that whatsoever. But that is one of my favourite missions, you know. And I mean, I love the branching storyline at the end of that. If you want to, you can. If you want to unmask Kilbane, you can. Because I was there as a wrestling fan there thinking, it's more embarrassing if I unmask the bloke. Plus, I'm not really interested in the Apocalypse. So, yeah, I'm going to take his mask. I wore that mask for the rest of the game.
Nice.
Did you do that, or?
I have the habit whenever I get games like this. I mean, it wasn't like a big thing in terms of these games. Like, there wasn't like huge kind of logic choice or like choices. Like, if you do something, like you go to a complete different direction. But I always had two save files. So I had the one save file of me being the good guy and one save file of me being the bad guy.
Yeah.
So I had one file where I would either take his mask off or like kill somebody, and then the other file I would not kill them and keep the mask on or something.
I did a couple of I did a couple of playthroughs because I did a couple of playthroughs because I really found that the branching storylines in this game to be fantastic. You know, there's one achievement that I don't think I'll ever get on the game, and that is because you've got to play equal amounts of hours as a bloke and a woman. I've played probably 90 odd hours as a man. I ain't playing 90 hours as a woman. I'm not going to play something like 90 odd hours as a woman unless they say, right, okay, here's Anne Widdecombe's voice for you to play with. Because I honestly want like some ridiculous woman voices, because all the women voices are just standard girl voices. Even though the game says, you know, you can be a man or a woman if you want, a lot of what goes on is really focused towards him being a bloke.
Yeah, because I mean,
the amount of prostitutes that are lying around if it's a woman, you know.
Let's be fair. I mean, I'm not trying to be all sexist and all kind of hit, but this really is kind of a man game. It screams out at being a man game, really, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not. I mean, anybody that's listening to this, I'm not sexist or anything, and I'm not trying to sort of. But the Saints Row series has never really done anything other than objectify women and make them sex objects.
Oh yeah, but
really, I mean, be serious here.
You know, that's what the game's about, really.
Yeah. Like if you look like the first time you look at Shandy, she's wearing really tight clothing and has got like giant tits.
Yeah, like... I'm on the Saints Row wiki now, looking at the information for Murder Ball. That's the picture that's on the screen now.
Well, of Shandy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In skin tight leather trousers, a tube top with the majority of her breasts hanging out.
Yeah.
And then there's like a gangster bloke on the right hand side, which I guess is supposed to be the boss, isn't it?
Yeah, but
but you know, what did you think of? I mean, if you played the previous game, what did you think about them changing? So I mean, because Shandy didn't look like this in the original game; she was a stoner in the last game. You know, what did you think about how they just changed things in the game just to suit themselves?
Well, the fact that the whole point of the Saints Row games are they're supposed to be just there's not supposed to be really any continuity, is it? It's just supposed to be really just a case of just, well, if you want to do this, but by God you can. So I never really had any problem with Saints Row 3 being so diversely different to Saints Row 2, because it was just that was kind of the point. Like where else can you get yourself a fucking VTOL like a VTOL bike and then a VTOL jet that you can magically just drive just for the sake of it? Like, and it's not just a case of, oh, you have to go to your safe house. No, you can get one delivered to where you are.
Yeah. The only problem with that is if you've got power lines hanging over above, it gets confused and it can't land.
Yes. I always used to love using the bike. I thought the bike was amazing.
The Tron cycle,
Yeah.
or the levitating bike.
I used to use the hover bike when I was in the street, but I always tried to use the Tron bike if I could as well, because I thought the
Mm.
Tron bike was so funny.
The bloody canonist, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah.
That was also good. That mission with the superhero convention, where you go in dressed as like what I believe is supposed to be this priest based superhero.
Oh yeah, you get dressed in what basically is you're a male prostitute priest.
Yeah, and the female who's accompanying you is, well, not wearing much in the way of clothing.
Which I don't really have a problem with, but
I don't have a problem with. I don't have a problem with. The only thing I have a problem with, wasn't it Viola who was doing that?
I think it was, yeah.
I have I kind of prefer Shandy, but that's just me.
I prefer Shandy, but I also have to say the twins in that game were they did look kind of hot.
Yeah, and then they killed one of them. Which is brilliant because Kilbane literally just goes, "What'd you say to me?" Snaps her neck. That's just really, really cool, Not that he killed somebody, but sort of like the fact that she crossed him, she did something a little bit wrong, and he's like, "Yeah, do you know what? I'm just gonna break
Again, my point, like it's like the Game of Thrones kind of thing. You like the character? Well, she dies.
Yeah, completely, And but it does also allow for a lot more characterization in the Viola character.
I mean, I still think. I mean, one of the last things to talk about Saints Row is I still think quite possibly the best unveiling of a character was, I can't remember what his name is, the guy that has a voice modulated microphone just so he can speak.
Oh, that's oh Christ, that's oh God, Zemos.
Yeah, and where do you find him? Well,
in the pony barn.
in a pony bar, which let's just call it for safety's sake, is a sex bar.
Yes, he's in the pony barn where where he's pulling a he's pulling like a horse cart. He's pulling a horse and cart in like a thong.
Yeah,
we don't need to go into that.
You do I am not joking, like a GTA style escape where instead of being in a car, you are shooting your machine gun from the back of a horse and cart while a guy in nothing but a thong and a voice modulator around his neck is speaking to you. Like, you can't write that down.
You couldn't make it up, could you?
No, you really can't. I sat there playing this, and I'm like going, this is quite possibly the worst and best game in the world.
Yeah. I mean, and of course, in that mission, you're running around naked.
Yeah, that's one of the things I love about that game is, oh well, you've completed the first two missions. Here's your apartment. Oh, you want to run around naked? Well, for laws and reasons, we can't show male or female genitalia, so we'll blur it out. But by God, if you want to run around naked, then go straight ahead.
One thing that they did do in Saints Row 2 that they didn't do in Saints Row 3, I don't know if you noticed it, but there was a I think it was an attractiveness meter that you could edit when you were editing your character. If you're playing as a female character and you slide that bar from left to right, her breasts increase in size.
No, you could do that in Saints Row 3. It was called sex appeal, where if you done that, like the dude, you get to see like the dude's dick or balls or something.
His package grew.
Yeah.
And
I love that you're so politically correct, package, and I'm saying they're dick and balls.
Hey, I do completely free up saying anything, but sometimes you've got to be a bit, I mean, we can't really go much into detail on the stuff in that mission involving the pony barn because, well, it's some really, really kinky shit.
Yeah, we can go into it because all it is just BDSM and sadomasochism.
Yeah.
Like, if you're a big fan of 50 Shades of Grey, you're gonna love that mission.
Yeah, and obviously, one of my favourite things from Saints Row the Third, and it's the last thing we'll talk about, is the final mission, the choice.
I love that because of the song that it plays. What's the song that it plays?
I Need a Hero, Dolly.
Bonnie
Tyler.
And that song completely plays, I think, right up until the end of the mission.
That song starts playing, and it's sort of like you've got two directions you've got to go in. For those who haven't played the game, you've got two directions to go in. If you go in the one direction and save and kill Killbane, the one of the big major villains of the game, then in turn two of your friends die. If you save those girls, Killbane gets away. Now, first thing I did, of course, because obviously it's playing the I Need a Hero. Screw Killbane, I'll kill him later. I am not letting the two ridiculously attractive girls die. As a bloke, that was my first thought.
Well, I'm an arsehole in video games.
You let die.
So I was like, fuck it, I'm going after Killbane. I want money.
I saved the girls first.
Yeah, see it.
And the other thing is, I didn't drive there either because that song started playing. And I thought what would be great about that? What would be great about if this was like a movie would be that he's too worried about going to save the girls. He doesn't like wait for a car to come past with me. He just fucking runs there. I ran there, dived off the nearest landmass, swam through the water, jumped out, and got to the mission location. And I just thought that was so really fitting, I actually felt like a, pun completely intended, a hero.
Yeah, see, for the record, if anybody doesn't, well, most people won't know this, but when I play video games, I always go for the evil path first. Because I like doing, because here's the thing that I've always found in video games, whenever you play as the good path, you never really get rewarded as well. You always get rewarded better for being an asshole.
That is true, something they do in games, but
so like, I'll be an asshole then.
by the end of the game, I had more money than I needed. So.
Oh yeah, you rinsed through money in that game. Like, I'm one of those people. Like, I mean, with San Andreas, I bought every single property. Like, after I completed the game, I went back and completed everything. I'd done all the properties, bought everything out, and that's what I was doing with GTA, with Saints Row the Third. It was like, oh, you can buy a property, click, I'll buy that one.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I did that as well. But let's segue off of Saints Row, because obviously Saints Row, well, sort of off it a little bit, because Saints Row's got.
I don't know what's going on at the moment, but in the last hour, I've had about 4 police cars come flying past.
Yeah, I've got the phone keeps ringing in the background, but for me, but Saints Row obviously has Saints Row 4 coming out before GTA. Now, do you see that as a good move by Volition? Or whoever owns Volition now?
I'm trying to remember which one was announced first. Because I think it was GTA 5.
GTA 5 was announced first, but then Saints Row 4 said... Because originally Saints Row 4 was going to be out a lot later, and Saints Row 3.5, essentially, was going to come out as, like, DLC. Big gigantic DLC package, yeah. Big giant DLC package, and then they said, no, what we're going to do is move it into Saints Row 4. Then the company got bought out shortly after.
Yeah. Because I couldn't remember who did it. Because I know Deep Silver now own them, don't they?
Yeah, they're owned by another.
Guys, yeah, Deep Silver own them, the guys that did Dead Island. Obviously, like you said, we talked about the fact that Saints Row is just a giant GTA clone. Is it a smart move by... I mean, it's a smart move in terms of it's going to get everybody excited for GTA 5, which, again, is also a thing against them. It's a smart move because obviously people are going to be playing that and going, oh, this is what GTA 5 is going to be like. And I think once I'm going to say this right now is once GTA 5 comes out, the only game that will stop it is going to be Call of Duty.
Yeah.
And I mean, Call of Duty is going to stop it immediately, but I was speaking to one of my friends on Twitter, and I said that GTA 5 coming out in September is probably the smartest move it can make.
Oh yeah,
because
completely.
The middle of September is now regarded as like the start of the winter season for video games. I mean, last year it was Borderlands 2 came out, and I think like the year before that, I think it was one of the Batman games or something like that came out, like something huge came out. Like the middle of September is now sort of regarded as like the start of the winter season. And I said that GTA 5 coming out in September is an incredibly smart thing to do, because the game will be out for 3 months, and in that 3 months leading up to Christmas, Call of Duty and Battlefield 4 are going to remain at full retail price. Rockstar probably aren't going to drop the price, But because it's been out for 3 months, they could legitimately drop the price by 10 quid or 15 quid.
Completely,
And
yeah.
you've instantly got like so many more sales rather than having to pay full price for a Call of Duty game.
Hmm.
And I said not only that, and if they really want to, because supposedly they're going to be making a crap ton of DLC for GTA 5, they could essentially release DLC as a marketing ploy for Call of Duty. Like, could you imagine, like, Call of Duty, like, say Call of Duty comes out, I think it's like November 5th this year or something. Could you imagine Call of Duty comes out November 5th, and just before that game comes out, Rockstar come out and go, first DLC pack for GTA 5 coming out November 5th? Like, that would be huge.
Yep.
And for the record, I don't really play the Call of Duty games anymore. The last one I played was Modern Warfare 3.
Am I considered a gaming hermit? So I've never played a Call of Duty.
Yeah,
I completely went off FPSs at the stage of Medal of Honor 4.
ooh, yeah, Medal of Honor. I'm kind of glad that EA have decided to drop the Medal of Honor series, because the Medal of Honor series
I stopped.
after the recent one was just terrible.
I just can't get into an FPS because to me, I don't like just being a hand holding a gun, or two hands throwing hands forward. When I've seen stuff like GTA and Saints Row, where I can see my guy's entire body, if I can't run up towards an opponent and drop kick them into their head, drop kick them and knock them out, right? I don't really want to just walk up to somebody and punch them.
If you really want I think the best first person shooter story I've ever seen is BioShock Infinite.
Yeah.
Because whilst you are just a guy that holds the gun, and you're having to get from point A to point B, the storyline in between it really takes you, it pulls you in so much that you don't even think about the fact you're playing a first-person shooter game. And I recommend that if you're not a big you're not a big first-person shooter game, but I'd recommend definitely play that game. That is one of the games. They always talk about like that. These are the 50 things you need to do before you die. That is one of the games you have to play before you die. Like, it's that good. And the fact that DLC supposedly could be coming out for it next month, I'm super excited for it.
That is kind of cool. But I've not been into FPSs for the longest time, and I've also got a problem with playing a game like Call of Duty because eventually after a long period of time, if I'll buy a game late because I'm not exactly the world's most wealthy person, so I'll buy a game 6 to 8 months a year down the line. By then, if I play online, your 12-year-olds who get the game immediately have already become super killing machines. I'll go onto a thing, get shot in the head within 2 seconds, noob, and that's it.
Yeah, that's kind of been the problem with most first-person shooter multiplayer games. That's why I don't generally like them. Like stuff like driving games. Like I'm generally kind of not. I'm generally kind of. I used to be a big fan of multiplayer, but the more I look at it now, the more I'm not a big fan of it anymore. Like the only multiplayer I really play now, like the co-op multiplayer, like Diablo 3, which is just giant. You can just play it cooperatively. Like those are the ones I really play now. Like Payday 2, which is coming out in August, is the sequel to Payday the Heist. That's a co-op first-person shooter heist game. Like those are the games I like when you have to work as a team, because then that you might get the odd person that's going to f things up, but hopefully you've got 3 or 4 people that actually want to play the objective that will help you run rather than just kick him out.
Yeah, and that's just something that I don't play online gaming all that often, to be honest. I play a lot on my own, and to me, playing the games is something that I just want to do on my own. My internet isn't brilliant either. It's been up and down for the last couple of days. So for me, I just sort of want to play the games on my own, really. That's why this thing about online play hasn't all that much worried me, because I'm going to play the games on my own.
Yeah,
What would absolutely cane me is this fee on second-hand games.
I think what would cane you also as well is the 24-hour check-in as well.
Oh yeah, that's why I can't. That's why at this point, even though I probably wasn't to begin with. But if I even was, I'd be put right off the Xbox One.
Yeah, last thing I definitely want to say before we probably wrap this up, because I mean we've been speaking what for nearly 3 hours now.
Oh yeah.
So this is like this will be probably like your longest show ever. So I do apologise probably for the length of the file size, but
While you were talking, I've already written the description for the YouTube video.
woo, I'm that good because I ramble too much. The last thing I will say is if you want, the Xbox One is without a doubt the best representation of a media entertainment box I have seen to date. As an achievement for a media box, ironic pun there, as an achievement for a media box, it's brilliant. The idea that you can actually plug in your cable box to Xbox and then never have to fumble for two different remotes. You can actually watch your cable through your Xbox. The fact that you can have your fantasies through your Xbox, that you can use your Netflix and all that as well, as a more like it's more constructive and more realistic to what's happening day in day. Absolutely fantastic, amazing achievement. You can't
Mhm.
deny the Xbox One as an entertainment system is the best system possibly you can get right now. As a But as a gaming system, it's PlayStation 4. And for us as video game fans, and the fact that E3 is a video game conference, and the reveal of the PlayStation, because let's call a spade the spade, that, the Sony knew, I think what Sony knew is they knew that the people that were probably going to watch this, um, people knew that who no, sorry, the people that knew that were going to watch the Sony unveiling were probably going to be gaming fans, in terms
Yeah.
of the fact is because they know it's Sony, and because Xbox has built up such a reputation of being a great media entertainment console, the latter half of the Xbox 360. um, I think that they thought, that the 360 was going to be, or sorry, the Xbox One was going to be a great media entertainment console, which, they've done that. They've now shown the games at E3, but in terms of the video gamers, I think they've pushed everybody to PlayStation 4. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, you can argue. But
Mm.
um, you know, if I want to get a media entertainment box, I'll probably get an Xbox One. But because I want video games, and like 90% of the reasons, 90% of my console I use is video games, I'm going to get a
Mhm.
PlayStation 4.
I believe Martin said on one of the podcasts, it might be the most recent one. It might be one a bit back, but I'm not going to be getting. I'm going to be getting a PS4 eventually, but it'll be a long way down the line because I believe Martin said something along the lines of the best games come out when the new console has already hit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm one of those people that um I think that if you're going to buy a console, don't buy it until at least a year after it's come out.
Mhm.
This generation is a bit different because you've got games like Call of Duty and Battlefield and Watch Dogs and all this. Like these are huge games. I mean, obviously you might not be a fan of all of them, but they are huge games, so it's kind of got an all right lineup. But for safety's sakes, Xbox 360 had a terrible lineup. PlayStation 3 was a terrible lineup. The Wii was terrible. The PlayStation 2 was terrible. The Xbox was terrible. No console ever has a good lineup, initial launch title list.
Yep.
So the fact that this one's got a reasonably good launch title list is going to help them. But I still recommend that if you're going to buy a console, unless you absolutely need to have it day one, wait about a year. Because by the
Mhm.
time you wait about a year, it's going to drop in price and you'll get more games for your money.
Yep. That's definitely going to be my thing. Obviously, financial issues rule first and foremost. But I don't think I'd want to get a console on day one.
No, I don't think I've ever actually got a console on day one. My Xbox 360, the first one I got, because I've had three, not because I'm throwing my money away. It's because two actually got red rings of death on them.
Mm.
Thanks for that. But my first console I got with Xbox was about 2006, and that was nearly a year after it came out.
Our first play, we've had two PS3s in our life cycle with PS3s. The first one we got packed in with the yellow light of doom, as people call it, where the I believe it's something to do with the solder on the motherboard coming loose and something like that. But
Mm.
there's a quick and easy fix, and there was a bloke locally who'd fix it for 30 quid. So we got in touch with him and we got this bloke to fix it for 30 quid. We took the console to him, he fixed it in a couple of days. We took the console home. First thing we did, turned it on, got onto it, got everything we could off it, right? Got the game out that was in the system and everything. Got as much of our stuff backed up as we possibly could, right? Stuck it straight in its box, went down to game, traded it in for something like 80 quid. Immediately, right? Immediately traded it in, said, oh, there's no problems with it whatsoever. Traded it in our local game, bought a slimline PS3, which we still got today.
Nice.
And, because we was, it was being said at the time, we, sort of keep playing the game, I'm going to play the game for a bit, no, we don't know how long this repair will last. Let's just get rid of it. Let's get rid of it quickly and get one that doesn't have this problem. And we haven't had any problems really with our new console at all.
That's all right.
Because that yellow light thing is something that exists only in the what people call the fat PS3s.
Oh well, the first batch or so.
The early PS3s, yeah.
The ones that had the emotion chip in there, so you could actually play PlayStation 2 games. To which Sony realised, oh yeah, we're making a loss in all of these consoles because we're actually putting a PlayStation 2 inside of a PlayStation 3. Let's remove that chip so we can make profit.
Ours doesn't play PS2 games. It's post that, but
all right,
still one of the ones from the original run. Because there was the 40 and the 60 gig consoles, right? And the 60 ones were the ones that had the emotion chip that could play PS2 games, and the 40 gigs couldn't. It was one of the 40 gig ones.
I'll never forget, for as long as I live, I'll never forget that announcement that Sony did when they went, yeah, we're taking the emotion chip out of it, and just the rage of everybody going, oh my god! And then within 6 months, they just went, here's PS Plus.
Yeah.
And everyone just went, Sony, I love you.
Mm-hmm. And of course, what we've got, our setup in the room where I do a lot of our recording, which is also our bedroom, is set up with there's a PS2, and on top of the PS2 is the PS3. We've got both consoles set up, and I believe my brother picked up that PS2 for something like 50 quid.
That ain't bad then. You could probably pick up a PlayStation 2 for probably about 20 or 30 quid nowadays.
Yeah, picked up an old PS2 and just sort of we keep that around for recording PS2 games. And that's just what it is. But yeah, we have run for 3 hours now, so I think we do need to start to wrap up.
What's the longest show you've done prior to this then? Like, what was the longest one?
140, hour 40.
Nearly doubled in length. Yes.
But obviously, the next bit falls completely on you, James. Even though it's all going in the description that I sent you across the Skype. Tell the people listening, viewing, whatever, where they can find you on various different social medias. Be that Twitter, Facebook, MySpace, hell, ChristianMingle.com. Wherever they can find you online, tell them where they can do that.
I'll tell you what, I've still actually got my MySpace profile open. I never actually shut it down. So if you really want to find me on MySpace, I don't know what my picture is on there. It might be, I think, it could be my time when I went to the Army and Navy match a couple of years ago. So if you want to find me on MySpace, then please go ahead. That'd be kind of interesting. Facebook, look for the People Power logo, James Buchanan, the People Power logo. If you want to talk to me on there. I'm mainly going to be involved on Twitter. I'm mainly normally on Twitter. So if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's @deadmanic616. Search for us on iTunes, Monster Madness Radio. Look, it's called the Mega Feed because I originally was going to put all of the shows separately on separate feeds to each other, but I thought it'd be easy if I just do a giant Mega Feed. So search for the Mega Feed on iTunes. Search for the new Gamer Scene podcast. I just put it up on iTunes about 3 days ago.
I put links to all this in the description as well.
That's right then. So if you can't search for it, then obviously you should have the links in there. Then obviously search for me on thegamerscene.com or go onto the official YouTube page called the Gamer Scene. I think it's called the Gamer Scene Video, where you get to see my happy hours as well. But I'm normally on Twitter or anything, so if you really want to talk to me, go to @deadmanning616 and I'll talk to you there. And if you want an email address, then I'll tell you then on Twitter.
So thanks for joining me on the chat room today, James. It's been an education, really.
Thank you for thanks for letting me destroy your entire morning for you. So I do apologise for the fact that I've just lost your morning.
It's about lunch. It's about lunchtime. That'll do. But it's been fun, and I'm sure if people stick to the end, what's going to be interesting with this is looking at the analytics for this episode and seeing exactly how far into the episode people got before they just thought, I'm going to bed now.
I'll guarantee you this. They'll get about they normally say about the average video on YouTube. Most people watch for about 20 minutes and then
Yeah.
they sort of tail off. If anybody has listened to this and they've got to the end, can you please comment on YouTube?
Let us know.
Let us know like if you watched it in one go, if you've watched it in like two halves or anything. I want to know how many people actually watch
Yeah.
this or listen to this.
Ultimately, everybody watching, please do me the favour, and before you leave, stick in the comments how far you got.
Yeah, I want to see how far we got. Because just one more thing is I want to do a thing for charity, maybe because I've spoke to Kieran about this, and this is just a small idea. I want to take this further, but I want to do a 24-hour podcast.
I would more than happy pop in for a bit on that.
Yeah, because the idea is I want to do it for something like I said it'd probably be best if to do it for like comic relief or children in need.
It's got to be comic relief because comic relief is all about doing something funny to make money and stuff like that.
Yeah, because the way I was looking at it is because obviously I don't want to run into for a 24 hours. So I said what I might do is I might say it's like for children in need or something to do like a 12-hour one to do like a prepare one like to get used to it, and then come comic relief or whenever to do a full 24-hour podcast. I mean it's just a small idea, but I'm thinking about maybe doing something like that for
Have you seen the thing that was done recently by I think it was the Bad Teeth YouTube channel, Man on Couch?
I've heard about that, but you might want
a bloke sort of stayed in a room, fed only by the things that people brought for him, and spent the majority of his time for a week on a sofa. Playing games. He had an iPad. He was able to walk around the room and sort of put stuff on the wall and draw stuff, and he was live streaming the whole thing.
Huh. How much did he make? Did he make anything?
I don't know whether it was for charity because I didn't watch all of it, but he did it for a whole week. He had a load of celebrities came in because the channel got stuff like James May came in for one of them. I don't know if you watched the YouTuber Ashens.
I've heard of it, but
he came in for one of them. They got a load of celebrities, people to come in, and it was a fantastic experiment. They put it down as an experiment to see what they could do if they put a bloke in a room for a week. People were bringing him food and stuff, and I think he the only time he sort of left the room was to go for I think it was a daily shower.
Yeah,
that was it. A daily shower, and he did a 1 hour live stream every day.
That's cool.
Week. It was a fantastic thing. I mean, it would be interesting if you could look into whether there's a Guinness record you could do. Is there a record for the longest podcast?
I don't know if there's an official record for a longest podcast, but I can only assume that
it's got to be 24 hours.
It's probably going to be a couple of days, I'd assume, or something.
Because obviously, if you did that and sort of, I don't know if you've got the capabilities of live streaming it.
I definitely the audio, yeah. I could definitely do audio.
If you set it up to live streamed it, and sort of brought all sorts of people from your past in, even if people were coming in for half an hour to an hour, and just came in, hell, I'd come in and record everything I do to put up on my YouTube, and you're completely welcome to use this for your network if you wish.
Yeah, because I definitely. I mean, the idea is only if Google Hangouts is still around by the time we do this, then I think Google Hangouts probably has it all sorted for us because it's essentially a video-based chat room. So.
The problem with Google Hangouts, which I had with the Tom Cale episode, is that it was so long that Google Hangouts couldn't handle it, and it went a bit fuzzy, and I lost it. That's why I do vocal conversations on Skype.
Yeah, I might do a backup as well, just as an audio. But the thing that also makes me laugh is if it was a 24-hour one, could you imagine the file size?
Oh my god, yeah. I mean, this 3-hour one that I've done thus far is 175,468 kilobytes.
It's 175 meg.
That's
So
not
time
175 meg ain't bad considering, it's 128 bit rate in mono, it's not that
yeah
bad really.
128 is not that big in terms of mono because in terms of the bit rate because I normally sometimes if I can get away with it I normally go for like a 320 or something on Audacity. So
Well,
and I mean there is a visible there is a visible difference between like the higher the bit rate is and the more clear you sound. So
I just wonder what it's going to do to it when I uh put it into an AVI format. I wonder if that's going to drop the quality somewhat.
it shouldn't do because normally you should be able to choose what kind of bit rate you want. But I'll put it this way: if it goes into an AVI format and I turn into the Saints Row 3 zombie, then I'll be kind of happy about that.
Anyway, to close off the episode, while because we finished talking shop, really, this has been Tom. This has been Tom's chat room. You've been hanging out. You've been hanging out in our chat room. For God's sake, go home. This is
Only if you give me one more round, one more beer, and I'll be gone.
So thanks for spending time in Tom's chat room, our happy lounge of conversation. You guys have things to do. So we will leave we're gonna close up. The bar is closed, the bell has gone, and the chat room is over. So thank you guys and goodbye.